Dignitaries on the stage, please. I would now like to welcome C.S. Venkataramana to give a welcome for the speaker as well as for the session.
Very good afternoon, everybody. I know that post lunch everybody is in relaxed mode, but I'm sure that Sudhakar sir will never allow us to sleep. At the outset, friends, I would like to welcome Sudhakar sir. I can say in entire India, especially in South, there will be no chapter calling him as a speaker. He will be speaker, regular speaker in all our chapters, and it is one of the important thing that whatever he speaks, he gives the root level knowledge to top level knowledge in every aspect. So give a big round of applause to him. And I also welcome my colleague Mohan Kumar sir. Friends, going into the topic, actually, I would like to say that recollect the slokas which provide the importance of this ESG. Like Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, it is and Bhumigi Pujaniya. That means everything is God and deserve worship. And Prakriti Rakshita Rakshita. That is nature protects who protects it. So these were the slokas which were came from the Smrutis and Vedas, which now it is coming back to India in a different form from international scenario. But any day, India has a country which has given a lot of importance for protecting the nature, protecting the environment, and keeping the all kinds of governance, giving importance to human welfare. That's why we say Sarve Bhavantu Sukinaha. That is, may everyone be happy. That is the importance of our Vedas. And this ESG concept is especially meant for environmental, social governance and reporting by the corporates which are having which are top 1,000 listed companies and voluntarily can be taken up by any other entities also. Especially the environment speaks about how the company safeguard the environment, including corporate councils and climatic changes, etc. Social is how it manages relationship with the employees, suppliers, customers, community. Then governance deals with the leadership, executive pay, audits, internal controls, etc. So this is the brief introduction about the subject, and we will be looking forward to hear from Sudhakar sir about deep into the subject and areas of explore areas that can be explored for the company secretaries by the company secretaries working in corporate, especially in employment and for practicing company secretaries, because there will be definitely rankings of ESG. That may also one of the opportunity which we can explore. Now I welcome Sudhakar sir to take up the session. We are eagerly waiting for it. Listen to you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to call upon Mr. Amarnath, the SIRC member, to present a planter to our esteemed speaker as a token of the gratitude, please. Thank you, sir. I would now like to call upon Mr. Venkata Subbarao to give an introduction to our esteemed speaker, please.
Thank you, Prasanna. Respected Sudhakar sir and dignitaries of the dais, it is my proud privilege to introduce C.S. Sudhakar S. He is a fellow member of Institute of Company Secretaries of India and fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and he is a qualified secretary of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators UK and law graduate from Mumbai University. He has worked with Reliance Industries Limited as a vice president for 17 glorious years, with taking care of legal and corporate and he was with Berger Paints Limited for about 15 years. Presently, he is associated with Mehta and Mehta Corporate Legal Firm as a chief consultant, and he is a member of Secretarial Standards Committee of ICICI and Vice Chairman of Expert Committee on Secretarial Standards of ICICI for the years 2021 and 22. And he is a member of Secretarial Standards Board of ICICI since 2016 onwards, and he is a member of Ethical Standards Board of ICICI for the year 2023. And he is a member of Vision Core Group and Vision Implementation Group of ICICI, and he is a member of ESG Committee of Delhi Management Association. Like that, he's a member of lot of committees and associates. And he is a guest faculty at ISGP, Hyderabad, and ICLS Academy, IOD, and also he is guest speaker at the programs organized by various associations and organizations. And approximately he addressed 900 plus workshops, seminars, conferences, training programs, and webinars organized by ICICI, ICI, and ICWI. And he's a faculty member of SMTP, MSOP, and CLDP of ICICI for over 20 years. Thank you, sir, once again for your time and presenting. And I look forward to a lot of insights from on energy, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon, friends. At the outset, my sincere thanks and gratitude to Bangalore chapter of SIRC of ICSI, Mr. Pradeep, Parameshwar, and entire team members. Coming to Bangalore is always a homecoming like for me. In fact, one of the best lectures I ever delivered, I was telling Mr. Dwarkanath during the lunchtime also that one of the best lectures I ever delivered was in Bangalore chapter only. That was our significant beneficial owners, wherein I have been told that when I saw a jam-packed auditorium of Bangalore chapter, I have been told that half of the people were sitting on the first floor, wherein the participants cannot see the speaker, but they can hear him. And the participants, and they were sitting on the first floor without even seeing me. So these kind of things always inspire and motivates me during my whatever the little bit of service from my side I'm doing to the profession. When Mr. Parameshwar asked me that I have to speak on ESG and BRSR, I was wondering whether to accept this or not, this particular topic. Earlier also I received 2 invites like this. I have regretted because this is not my domain as such. But third time when the same topic has been offered to me, I thought that now let me also study this because the future is going to be on this particular subject, ESG and BRSR, and this is going to be a niche area for the company secretaries. So this is like a test for me because I'm taking up this particular topic for the first time. There was so much of hype in Bangalore at this point of time. Everyone is telling me we are eagerly waiting to listen to you. I'm really a bit nervous. In fact, as Prasanna told that I have addressed about 950 and odd programs, no doubt about it. Because virtually during the COVID period, I was addressing 3 to 4 seminars on the virtual mode. That has given me a lot of count. Because somebody asked me, why can't you count your programs also? Then I started counting it. Okay, so this is how it has happened. Then after he spoke to me, then I thought that let me study this particular subject. And when I have been told that this is going to be a post-lunch session, then I thought, okay, it is good, because post-lunch sessions are always easier to the speakers. So I thought this is somewhat I have been given some kind of a support by keeping my session as the post-lunch session. And the only thing before I start my topic, I would like to ask you is how many of you are working for listed companies? Okay, about 10, 15 people. How many of you are doing secretarial audits for listed companies? About 10 people. So in the audience of approximately about 150 people, approximately seems to be my gut feel, about 25, 30 people are concerned with this particular subject. So this is further giving me a comfort. This is further giving me a comfort that my job is not that tough as I was assuming it. Now, my final question to all of you is that how many of you have read this subject? 15 or 20 maximum. Okay, one more question. This has prompted me to ask you that how many have got hands-on experience on this particular subject? 2 people. See that how I'm getting motivated. How I'm getting motivated. That's why in the life, whenever we face any kind of hassles like this, or these are all illusions, we think that these are all going to be my roadblocks. I'm convincing myself, I'm trying to convince you also to send the message that if you think it is a difficult thing, because why I asked you all these questions is I'm sure that every one of you, like me, about a fortnight before, we might be scratching the surface. We might not be taking a deep dive into this. Because if it is a Companies Act, every one of us would have taken a deep dive into that. Every one of us kind of read sometime or the other. But this, anything other than the Companies Act, anything other than the listing regulations, we always find a discomfort. This is there in our DNA of the company secretaries. This is nothing new. Suppose whether it is a labor laws, whether it is, suppose if you ask anybody, how many of you got knowledge about POSH? Not even 25% of the people might be having that. But despite the fact that we are all company secretaries, we are the conscience keepers and compliance officers. Because anything new is ours. But once I started studying this, really it is a good topic, a good subject, and we must be doing our what's called as we are going to be the what's called as key managerial persons. We can say that key officials of the company who have to drive this in our respective companies. Because the way we are doing the corporate social responsibility, we have some kind of a social responsibility towards the environment, society, as well as governance also. So with this background, let me start my subject, my topic rather. Rabindranath Tagore said that the one who plants trees, knowing that neither he may never sit in their shade, nor may enjoy its fruits, has started to understand the meaning of life. Most of the times what we do is that anything before we start, we always say what is there in it for me. If we are convinced, yes, we will put our full energy into that. The moment we are not convinced that there is nothing there for me, then we don't do it. If you want to really grow a tree, you have to first of all sow a seed. The moment you sow the seed, next day onwards, you want to enjoy the fruits, it will not happen. You have to sow the seed, you have to water it, you have to allow it the time to nourish it. So many things are there. So you may not be able to enjoy the fruits of the tree what you are planting. That is the fundamental thing in life. So a person who can understand the meaning of this, he can understand the philosophy of life. Starting a business is no different to that of planting a tree. When we are starting a business, if you want that from tomorrow onwards, I have to get the benefits out of it, it's not going to happen. Whether you as a company secretary, if you are joining a service, or if you are a company secretary starting your practice, you say after 2 years you are getting frustrated, I'm not getting good clients, or in the service I am not getting a good work profile. This is mostly happens. Several company secretaries complain that sir business तो शुरू कर दिया but clients नहीं मिल रहे. Because this particular aspect, I got convinced more when I started myself associated with Mehta and Mehta. Several partners say that we are doing a lot of legwork, but the fruits are not there. Then I have to tell them the same thing. Have patience. It will not going to be overnight. So similarly here also, that from sowing the seeds to waiting with a great anticipation for it to sprout, to water it with dedication, to pray for the good sunshine and fine weather, the journey of planting a tree is not a short-term one. This I can equate it to the same thing with the professional life also. The journey of a professional life is not going to 2 years, 5 years thing. It is going to take time. Ask any of the company secretaries who have put in 10 years, whether in service or in practice. They will tell you the same. They have the initial frustrations, but they have overcome that and they have succeeded in life. So the concept of longevity and sustainability that has gained momentum in the past few decades and learned the journey towards ESG. ESG is the acronym for environmental, social, and governance. The third aspect, we know it very well, but the first two aspects we need to learn. And ESG initiatives of companies are to be reported through sustainability reporting. Let us see, first of all, what is the environment? I am going to take you to sometimes to the basics also. You might be knowing that, but please bear with me. Because for the sake of continuity and to understand the subject in its right from the, as Prasanna told me that I always, or Mr. Ramana told that, I always take up the subject right from the roots to the top. Unless until your fundamentals are strong enough, unless until your clarity of understanding is there, you will not be going to do the BRSR. To understand the BRSR, you have to first of all understand what is ESG. Then only you will be able to understand BRSR or BRSR core or your ESG rating, etc. So environment, the first part of, that is the E part of ESG, can be defined as sum total of all living and non-living elements and their effects that influence human life. As we know that in the environment, there are living beings out there and non-living beings are also there. So together, how they affect and influence the human life, that is environment. So while all living or biotic elements are animals, plants, forests, fisheries, and birds, and the non-living or abiotic elements include water, land, sunlight, rocks, air, mountains, etc. Combinedly, this is called as environment. Given the needs of the industry for the raw materials or for their energy requirements, the businesses have to depend upon the environment. Most of the times it happens that, especially in the private sector, people say that, look, I am the person who is investing the money and doing the business. How the hell I am concerned with the environment or other resources? Most of the times people say that when they are using 24/7 air conditioners at their home, when somebody talk about that, the kind of how he is polluting the environment by using the air conditioner 24/7, he will say, look, I am paying for that. What is your problem? Similarly, some people, they use the shower where they have to take 1 bucket of water to take bath. They use 4 buckets with the understanding that, look, I am paying for the water. It is not that. You are wasting the resources, you are wasting the environment, whatever it is there. How about the replenishment? For tomorrow's generation's necessities, if you consume it today as luxuries, you are actually depriving your next generation about their necessities. So please understand that you can afford luxuries, but at the same point of time, when you are enjoying a luxury, try to replenish that. How we will do that? Let us see. Hence, while conducting the business, one is meddling and exploiting the environment, which should be done in a responsible way with accountability and as per law. As a business person, whenever we do that, say for example, in the director's report, we have to give that energy conservation measures. Most of the time, the service sector people say that, look, I am not using any energy. How can I save that? The lights, what we are using in our offices are consuming electricity. So you have to see that how best you will be able to do that. By opening the windows, maybe you may get sunlight, but in the evenings also, if you are using your lights, or in the daytime also you are using light by putting your curtains and all those things. So these are all the thinking one has to start it. That is what it is concerned as environment. So greenhouse gas emissions, climate change and pollution, waste disposals, recycling process, deforestation and disaster management, there are certain areas of concerns. Now, the S part of ESG.
Society is a group of individuals involved in persistent social interaction and of large social groups sharing the same social territory. When we are talking about these savings, we are talking about the individual level also. At the same point of time, we have to also talk about societal level. How you can contribute. Sometimes what happens is people are there to follow, but there is nobody to lead. In fact, about I think 3-4 years before, the Juhu beach was virtually stinking at Bombay. So somebody has taken a call that this particular Sunday, I am going to clean the Juhu beach. Whoever are interested, please come and join me. He has put an Instagram post, and there were 25 people were there. These 25 people have started, and ultimately that went up to 25,000 people. 50 group of people. They said that, okay, one Sunday one group will do, another Sunday another group will do, third Sunday another group will do, like that. So here also, say for example, in Bangalore or in Bombay, we complain always about traffic problems. How much the traffic police can do it? One traffic constable, how can he control so many vehicles? Maybe a group of us go and volunteer there, okay, evening between 5 to 8, we are going to take care of that. We will assist the traffic constables. Has that thought come to us? Maybe, may not be, I don't know that. So this is how we have to think about this ESG is concerned. Social well-being, health, security and safety of working conditions and employee benefits, gender diversity and respect for human rights and such concerns. This looks very silly. Suppose, say, for example, as company secretaries, we are in practice. The trainees are there, the employees are there. Can you distinguish the trainees from the employees? Can you pamper the trainees because they are professional students? Can you not pamper the other people who are working for you who may not be professionally qualified? Can we show the demarcation, or you will show them all alike? Right from your furniture, because I recently went to one practicing company secretary's office. There are some cane chairs were there. There are some beautiful wheelchairs were there, pushback and all those things. I asked them why it is so. So he said that these are all for the qualified people. These are for trainees and these are for the rest. Of course, I have not told him, but heart of heart, I thought that this is incorrect. No doubt about it. There may be a cabin for a senior most person, but that is a different thing. But even the sitting arrangement also, if you are demarcating it, are you not causing a dent to the morale of your employees? These are certain things which this S aspect of ESG talks about. Similarly, that of course they go to this extreme of even talking about human rights and equal opportunities, no caste discrimination, etc., that we will see. The third aspect is governance. In the ESG concept, why I am linking it to our profession is, my objective is to explain the topic at the same point of time, how we can also contribute at our own level. Not necessarily we have to work for the companies. Even if we are running our own, what's called as practicing forms, still we can do that. So ESG, the third concept is the G part of ESG goes with fulfillment of expectations, responsibility and accountability towards protection of nature and environment, flora and fauna, compliances with relating to laws, rules, regulations, etc. The purpose of each environmental law is different, and the target audience is also different. Board composition and diversity, committee constitution and policy formulations, risk management systems, anti-corruption, anti-bribery are certain concerns. We are the best masters of this thing as far as the constitution of the committees are concerned, as far as the terms of reference and everything is there. Sometimes I ask myself a question that whether it is a listed company or unlisted company, we know that how the board is to be constituted, how the committees are to be constituted, how the terms of reference are to be given. But are we ensuring that at the back end of the year, whether the board and the committees are discharging their responsibilities which are supposed to be done? If you see the listed companies especially, that schedule 2 is there, which is giving the terms of reference of the committees. And the big laundry list is there. That laundry list, every financial year, the particular committee has to look into those aspects. I'm sure that very few company secretaries might be checking that aspect, that if there are 20 terms of reference are there for the committee, which they have to look into, over a period of one financial year, if only 10 terms have been touched upon and the remaining 10 are not there, as secretarial auditor, you need to also ensure that whether the committee has discharged its responsibilities in full or not. If you are in service, of course, definitely you have to take care of that. Then comes the term sustainability. The term sustainability is derived from the Latin word sustinere. To sustain means to maintain, support, uphold, and endure. We were talking in the lunchtime again about Mr. Tejasvi Surya's this thing. At such an young age, he has become a member of parliament. Because he got no doubt about it. He was groomed by RSS and he got the RSS background, no doubt about it. Anybody come from that particular institution will always be disciplined and will always be dedicated. All those things will be there. All these will be there in him. And some people say that because of that backing, he has become a member of parliament. I always say that whether it is a company secretary degree or a chartered accountant degree or RSS, what's called as that grooming, it is only give you a visa, that means to entry point. After that, you have to sustain. This sustainability is nothing but that only. When you talk about environment, when you talk about social and governance aspects, it is not only simple starting, but you have to also sustain. Sustainability is the ability to continue over a long period of time. That means what? Starting is very easy, anything. Suppose if you come as a public speaker, so that particular time, what happens? There will be a nervousness, there will be kind of stammering and all these things will be there. After that, will you be able to sustain or not? Or sometimes it may so happen, some people got the public speaking ability, the first lecture itself may be a grand success. Can he become an eminent speaker? For that, he has to develop that sustainability elements, ability to sustain the things. So in the ESG scenario, sustainability referred to the environmental sustainability, which is meant for using natural resources judiciously and responsibly. And at the same point of time, with some kind of an accountability, and of course, as per the laws and regulations. So while conducting their business activities, corporations use both environmental and social resources, belong to the society, and hence are responsible and accountable to a long list of stakeholders. Now, whether ESG is a simple tick box exercise, or is it going to give me some kind of advantages? If you see that globally, ESG as an investment criteria is also there. Globally, in the investment criteria of any fund manager, sustainability and ESG are integral parts and becoming central theme where they have to allocate the capital. So they are not going to see your financial parameters only. When the investments are happening, that they are also seeing the non-financial parameters. The excess funds seamlessly with more competitive interest rates, ESG compliances with a greater score will help a lot. The moment your disclosure as far as the non-financial parameters are concerned, your stakeholders can understand your company in a better manner. Because if you are having good financials at the cost of the society or at the cost of the environment, is it correct? How long you can survive? That is the main question. So when you give that your financial parameters as well as non-financial parameters together, and if an investor who is going to be a long-term investor, who is going to be a substantial investor of your company, when he reads these two things together, he can understand the picture completely, and he can also understand that how long you will be able to sustain. You don't need to tell them, they can understand themselves. So large capital funds such as pension funds and sovereign wealth funds are not looking just for the ROI. This is what I said, that they are not just looking for the financial parameters, but also the social impact of their investments. Companies which are not ESG compliant may face hurdles in future for procurement and rising of funds. As of now, everything is going goody, no problem at all. But next one decade, if you see that, after that, definitely ESG is going to take the central stage as far as the investment criteria is concerned, whether it is banks or financial institution while investing or while lending the money. So with the ESG rating, very soon the same situation is going to prevail in India also, because ESG rating already SEBI has sown the seeds for that. We will discuss about that ESG rating also. And once that getting popularized, obviously all the lenders, investors, borrowers, they are going to look, all your stakeholders, your suppliers, your customers, they are going to definitely see that how your company is performing, not only financially, but otherwise also. Now, let us see the stakeholders' concerns about sustainability quickly. Investors look for good financial returns, business efficiency and best practices, corporate governance. Shareholders look for transparency, integrity, formulating and following business code of conduct. Employees look for occupational health, safety, their adequate employee benefits and compensations, but not last but not the least of that respect also. Customers look for product safety and content, high quality of product and services, value for money. Always I say that what the customer looks for is value for money, whether it is high value quality product, low value quality products, doesn't matter. Whatever I'm paying for that, I have to get value for my money. Government looks for obviously compliances, rules and regulations, cooperating with the government departments in a very transparent manner. And communities look for local employment, minimal impact on the surrounding environment following compliances. So in the present world, sustainability is something that investors are demanding, customers are expecting, shareholders are relying, and employees are valuing. So please remember that these are the four main pillars of any business community. So to repeat that, in the present world, sustainability is something that investors are demanding it, customers are expecting it, and shareholders are relying upon it, and employees are valuing it. So let us see the ESG journey, where it started and how it started and where India is today. ESG reporting landscape is rapidly changing across the globe. Non-financial reporting has gained traction across the world as more and more companies have started becoming conscious about the adverse effects of their operations of the environment and climate change. Sometimes it may so happen that what you are doing, it may not be affecting the environment immediately in the near vicinity only. The impact of that might be going into some miles and miles together. Say, for example, in Punjab, all know that stubble burning. What they are doing, the farmers, they don't have any other avenue to disposal of the waste. Unless until they dispose the waste, they cannot create a new crop. For that, what they do, the only thing what they know is, which over years together they were doing is just burn it. And now what is happening is the impact of that burning in Punjab, that is crossing Haryana, and that is going up to Delhi and suffocating all the three states together. So sometimes it may so happen, even the industries also, unless until you adopt proper waste disposal, if you are simply dumping it in the soil, or you are throwing it in the air, or you pushing it into the rivers, what will happen? Wherever the river flow, wherever the air flow, and wherever that soil is going to get degenerated, it is going to harm that. After some years, the soil will become absolutely what's called as that not useful for any kind of crops. So that is to be said. So non-financial reporting has gained traction across the world as more and more companies have started becoming conscious about the adverse effects of their operations on the environment and climate change. So in the recent years, adopting and mitigating climate change impact and transitioning to sustainable development has emerged as major issues globally. Increasing investor focus on sustainability investing and facing increasing pressure from investors and others, as I told you already. And regulators around the world are also increasingly requiring ESG disclosures. Because if you want to understand the kind of impact on the environment, just one industry is not sufficient. Different industries might be causing different impact on the environment, different impact on the society. So for that, you need to have the data. For that data, you have to have kind of a reporting also. So to start with, for listed companies, BRSR reporting is there, but very soon it may be extended to all the corporates also. So globally, several countries introduced climate change reporting by their listed premium companies. So several institutions such as Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, SASB, the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, and the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD, they have started working to form standardized reporting formats for non-financial disclosures by companies. No doubt about it, you have to disclose the non-financial parameters. But what kind of non-financial parameters? There should be some kind of formats. There should be some kind of a way of reporting also. That is what these agencies have started doing that. Now let us see the ESG journey as far as India is concerned. It is not like that we don't know about ESG, as Mr. Ramana has mentioned that. We know for ages together that respect the nature, and we were respecting it. We respect the rivers, we respect the mountains, we respect the sun, we respect the moon, and we have actually given that a status of a god virtually, and we pray them. But only thing is, over a period of time, these values and this culture has come down, and we started polluting them. And that's why for the first time, the 2009, MCA has introduced the Corporate Social Responsibility Voluntary Guidelines. Each business entity should formulate a CSR policy, which should be an integral part of its business and aligned with its business goals. I'm sure that with all due regards, 5% of the present audience might have read this non-voluntary CSR guidelines, which were there in 2009. If you want to really understand the section 135, the meaning of it, the purpose of it, the objective of section 135, please do refer to this 2009 guidelines. Very beautifully they have explained that. Courtesy, again, Mr. Parmeshwar's invitation, that I could read the 2009 guidelines recently, A to Z. Of course, in 2009, that point of time, I might have given a cursory glance to that. But this time I read it. And now my understanding of this section 135 is more because of this guidelines. 2011, these guidelines have been revised, and these have been rechristened as National Voluntary Guidelines of Social, Environmental, and Economic Responsibilities of Business. 2009 guidelines talks about only corporate social responsibility, whereas 2011 guidelines talks about ESG also. These guidelines articulated 9 principles with core elements to actualize each principle. Again, the same thing, if you want to understand the BRSR, again, BRSR also depending upon the 9 principles. If you want to understand these 9 principles, the ABCD, if you want to learn, please refer to 2011 guidelines. 2012, BRR has been mandated under clause 55 of the erstwhile listing agreement. But the first time top 100 listed companies have been asked that BRR is to be, you don't need to take the photograph of these slides. I will give the presentation I have given to Bangalore chapter and you can have it. If anybody wants to really have it, please give me your email ID. I will send it. Why unnecessarily you have to take photographs? You will not complain about that. Please focus upon whatever I am telling you. Okay? I hope you agree with me. So 2012 business responsibility reports, top 100 listed companies, they want to give that. Again, the same thing. If you want to understand BRSR, you have to understand first of all what is BRR. Again, the same thing that we will say what I have to comply with today. Forget about the past. Focus upon the present and future. You cannot forget the past. If you want your present should be sound and future to be bright, you have to have your past also. You have to give importance to your past. So please do read 2009 guidelines, 2011 guidelines, and the BRR, which was introduced in 55 clause prior to SEBI listing regulation. Because post SEBI listing regulation 2015, they got amended further. What I'm trying to say is, if you want to really understand the ESG journey, you have to go right from 2009, how it got developed till date, and how it is going to be in future. 2015, as I told you, clause regulation 34(2)(f), it was introduced and this has been extended from 100 companies to the top 500 listed companies. They have to give the BRR. 2019, again, National Guidelines on Responsibility Business Conduct. This is called as NGRBC guidelines. These guidelines have attempted to align the Indian guidelines with the United National Guiding Principles, UNGP, and even the Sustainable Development Goals, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And to align with that, what happened is that 2020, a committee has been constituted on the business responsibility reporting. This committee has recommended that the BRR has outlived, now you have to have BRSR. So they have suggested two formats for the BRSR, one comprehensive and another one is the lighter version. So 2021, the SEBI amended its listing regulations and they have discontinued the BRR effective 21 to 22. And from financial year 22-23, which has gone by recently, top 1,000 listed entities have to submit the BRSR in the specified format. This is to be a part of your annual report. So 2021, they issued a circular on the BRSR. These disclosures were divided into essential and leadership indicators. There, if you see the BRSR format, there are essential indicators are there, there are leadership indicators are there. Essential indicators are mandatory and leadership indicators are voluntary basis. And mostly the leadership indicators are, you can say that even if you are not going for that, it is not that matter. But as far as essential indicators are concerned, they're mandatory to be complied with. 2022 recommendations of ESDR Advisory Committee, SEBI constituted one committee and given them the while submitting the report, they are given the recommendations in the areas of ESG disclosures, ESG ratings, and ESG investment. This is what I told you that. Now, 22, the ESG rating thought for the first time it has come. Now that committee which was constituted, it has given the recommendations. After that, SEBI has come with a consultation paper. And now that ESG rating is also mandated. ESG rating is going to be given that same thing that the credit rating regulations are going to be applicable. We will see that also a little while after that. Now, another important thing is that for the first time in the Companies Act 2013, Section 166 has stipulated certain duties for the board of directors. And one of the duty is that to promote the objects of the company for the benefit of its members as a whole and in the best interest of the company, its employees, the shareholders, the community, and the protection of environment. So if you ask any director whether he knows that there is a mandatory duty casted upon him and he is supposed to protect the environment also, I don't think that any director knows about this. So forget about BRSR. BRSR is listed companies, so several company secretaries might have got a sigh of relief that only it is for the top 500 listed companies or top 1,000 listed companies as on date. But question is not that. Even if you are a company secretary of a private company, and tomorrow if your company is polluting the environment, apart from the pollution laws, even the ROC may also can give a notice to your directors that you are not discharging your duties what have been stipulated under 166. You are not protecting the environment. Show the cause why you cannot be penalized. What answer we will give? Think about it. So non-financial report is increasingly forming the basis for enhancing the investor confidence in businesses and increasing their creditworthiness. The ultimate responsibility for adoption of the principles rests with the highest governance structure of the business. That's why you have to sensitize the board about the responsibility of the corporates towards the ESG, because it has to percolate it top down and not bottoms up. Now, what is this ESG rating? ESG rating means the rating of the products that are marketed as opinions about an issuer or a security regarding its ESG profile or characteristics, or exposure to ESG risk, governance risk, social risk, climatic or environmental risks, or impact on society, climate, and the environment that are issued using a defined ranking system of rating categories, whether or not these are explicitly labeled as ESG ratings. Then tomorrow, if you are appointing an agency to do the ESG rating of your company, they are not only going to see your the profile or the characteristics of the company or your vision, mission, etc., etc. What they are going to see is about risks, what you are going to face also. That risk may be ESG risk, social risk, climatic risk, environmental risk, pollution risk. All these risk parameters confined to your company and how you are addressing that mitigation of those risks, the ranking will be given accordingly. So what for ESG rating? Why I have to have the ESG rating? An ESG rating evaluates an organization's environmental, social, and governance practices and their preparations for that. An ESG impact rating evaluates a company's commitment to sustainability and ethical practices. So ESG rating is a tool to investors to assess the sustainability and ethical impact of their investment. This is what I told you that if you in future that the investor community or the lending community are going to see not only the financial parameters, also the non-financial parameters. For that, where is the benchmark for that? ESG ratings are going to be the benchmark for the future. The way we are going for the credit rating, they are going to look for the ESG rating. So ESG rating is going to be at its infancy stage as on today, but definitely in the next 1 decade, that is going to be the order of the day. So ESG rating typically ranges from 0 to 100, with higher score indicates the better performance. Who are the ESG rating providers? Who will provide it? Can a company secretary provide it? No, not necessarily. You have to see that again. Who are the people who are qualified to provide the ESG rating providers? It means an entity which is engaged in or proposes to engage in the business of issuing ESG ratings. Broad framework for ERPs is provided in the ERPs and regulated under the provisions of SEBI credit rating agency regulations. That means the way credit rating agencies have been regulated by SEBI, same is the case when the same regulations are applicable for the ESG rating also. There is a separate chapter. If you see the credit rating regulations, there is a separate chapter for ESG credit ratings. And in that chapter, everything has been demarcated clearly, who is eligible, who is entitled, who can do, who can't do, and all those things. So the ESG rating provider shall abide by the code of conduct as set out in the 7th schedule to CRA regulations. So what kind of ESG ratings will be given? ESG ratings, transition or parivartana score, combined score, core for ESG rating, core transition or parivartana score, core combined score. ERPs may provide ratings called as core ESG rating that shall be based on the third party issued audited data disclosed by the company. Sometimes what happens is when you are reporting the non-financial parameters, though voluntarily the companies may engage a third party auditor who will give the assurance audit. If anybody is interested, please read the Reliance annual report. After all that ESG reportings, there is a KPMG certification also on the assurance report, you will be finding it. If you are interested, please go through that. So an ERP may provide additional ESG ratings, products subject to compliance with relevant provisions of CRA regulations. So what are this, all that 6, 7 rankings are there, what is they meant for? At this point of time, we are not required that, but I thought that let me just say that what type of ESG ratings are available. Now let us see the BRSR. So businesses have always used natural resources and human capital among others to produce goods and services required by the society. So there is now a growing awareness and activism among the stakeholders of businesses in particular and society in general, who are demanding business accountability for their social and environmental impacts. Any kind of business, if you are causing a damage to the social and environmental impact, definitely there will be some NGOs will be there who will be taking you to task. Because though the pollution laws are there, they are not that stringent and the regulators are also not effectively implementing that. But once BRSR, if you are going to give your non-financial parameters, there is clear-cut questions are there. Are you causing the pollution? Are you having a pollution control measures, risk mitigating measures? You have to give everything. So a person, when he reads that, definitely is going to do that. In fact, I was reading at 1 or 2 organizations, I don't remember the names, but they have been heavily penalized by the regulatory agency, depending upon their own reporting, wherein they were left with no option but to report what sort of non-compliances they have made. So this is going to be a kind of it was called as landmines, where you yourself is giving an opportunity to somebody, but there is no other option for you. It just like, if you got a non-compliances are there, the secretarial auditor has to qualify his report. Similarly, any kind of non-compliance of accounting standards are there, the statutory auditor has to do that. Same is the case with ESG reporting also. So the philosophy of responsible business is based on the principle of being accountable to all stakeholders. Non-financial sustainability reporting provides an opportunity to businesses to communicate in an open, transparent way with all its stakeholders. This reporting envisages wider responsibilities for a company and its directors beyond its shareholders to its stakeholders, employees, community, and environment. So when you are doing a non-financial reporting, you can say that, look, when I am conducting my business, this is the kind of waste what I am generating it. That waste may be any kind of waste. It may be a e-waste, it may be a nuclear waste, or it may be any other kind of waste. And at the same point of time, you have to also say that what kind of risk mitigation measures, that means what kind of measures you are taking to reduce the wastage, to reduce the pollution controls and all. Because sometimes when you are going for a manufacturing process, you are bound to pollute something. But that should be under the controllable levels. If it goes beyond, there will be a problem. At the same point of time, we have to also say what kind of risk mitigation measures, any kind of R&D is taking place, any kind of technology is being imported, or you yourself is innovating, all kinds of things are to be given in this report. I told you already about 2009, 2011, and 2019. The NGRBC has been designed to assist businesses to embrace the principle of responsible conduct. This is already we have discussed. Now, just to give that CSR voluntary guidelines 2009, for the sake of continuity, I need to put this slide also. The corporate growth is sometimes seen as widening the gap between the India and Bharat. Bharat word, though it has come only about month and a half before, but I was surprised to see that in 2009, they have used these words. This is, I have picked up from there straight away. The corporate growth is sometimes seen as widening the gap between India and Bharat. Means what? India means cosmopolitan cities. Bharat means it is the rural areas. That time itself they have envisaged, they coined the word of Bharat. Though its income skewing capability, and the government felt that this gap needs to be bridged. So it was also felt that business sector needs to take the responsibility of exhibiting socially responsible business practices that ensures the distribution of wealth and well-being of the communities in which the business operates. Same thing, if you want to understand 135, you have to understand these two paragraphs. Against this background, FCA has decided to bring out a set of voluntary guidelines for responsible businesses, which will add value to the operations and contribute towards the long-term sustainability of the business. So the company should respect the interests of and be responsible towards all stakeholders and engage with them. Governance systems of the corporate should be underpinned by ethics, transparency, and accountability, and they should not engage in business practices that are abusive, unfair, corrupt, and anti-competitive. Provide workplace environment that is safe, hygiene, and humane. Please read the words. When you are talking about the workplace environment, what they say is it should be safe, and it should be hygiene, and it should be humane, and which upholds the dignity of employees and provide all employees with access to training and development of necessary skills for career advancement. When you are talking about the human element, when you are talking about the S in the ESG, what they say is by simply paying salaries to your employees is not sufficient. It is your responsibility to ensure that their training needs have been taken care of. They have been given a proper work environment. Their safety aspect is taken care of. The hygiene aspect has been taken care of. The human element has been taken care of. And first and last but not the least is that respect their human rights for all and avoid the complicity with human rights abuses. Corporate should manage natural resources in a sustainable manner, proactively respond to the challenges of climatic change, efficient use of energy and environment-friendly technologies, undertake activities for economic and social development of communities and geographical areas, These may include that education, skill building, livelihood of people, health, cultural and social welfare, etc. Now, come back, as I told you that 2019, that NGRBC principles have come, that is National Guidelines of Responsible Business Conduct. That means our guidelines have been linked to the United Nations guidelines, and these NGRBCs have been developed. This contains 9 thematic pillars of business responsibility, which are called as principles. PRSR is depending upon this only. Each principle is introduced as a statement and followed by a narration of the essential aspects of the principle, referred to as the brief description. If you see the PRSR, every principle is having 2 lines at least. It is not just like a header. It is 2 lines. It is like a statement. And that statement has been given that how you are ensuring that particular statement has been discharged your responsibility, then you have to report it. So each principle is accompanied by a set of requirements and actions that are essential to the operationalization of the principle, referred to as core elements. These principles are interdependent, interrelated, and non-divisible, and businesses have to address them holistically. If you read the 9 principles, it will not be that I will comply with one and I will not comply with the others, because these are all interrelated principles and you cannot divide them. So you as a business person or as a compliance officer, you have to see the compliance of these 9 principles holistically. Anyway, these are the principles, but I'm going to read now one by one. Let us see that briefly. First principle is business should conduct and govern themselves with integrity in a manner that is ethical, transparent, and accountable. Please understand these 9 principles, the statements what they're giving. When I say the statement is, the first principle, it is, if you see in the PRSR report, it is starting like this. Business should conduct and govern themselves with integrity in a manner that is ethical, transparent, and accountable. It assures 100% compliant company and robust governance framework. That means any stakeholder who is going to read the first principle, he can understand the compliance culture of the company and what kind of governance practices your company has adopted. That is the first principle going to read. The second principle, business should provide goods and services in a manner that is sustainable and safe. Established framework for product stewardship, enhanced mechanisms for ensuring supply chain sustainability. These are the 2 important things you will come to know about your principle number 2. 3, business should respect and promote the well-being of all employees, including those in their value chains. Who is a value chain? Again, we will discuss that. Health and environment, developed workforce, safe workplace, human capital development throughout the value chain. So they are talking about not only of the company, but they are talking about the value chain. Value chain means right from your backward integration to your forward integration. That means the people who are supplying you the raw material, ultimately the people who are going to buy your finished product. That is kind of the entire thing. That is all kind of the value chain system. So whatever the principles they are talking about, equally it is for the value chain, what's called as the stakeholders also. Principle number 4, business should respect the interest of and be responsible to all the stakeholders. Greater investor confidence, enhanced brand reputation and attractiveness. So once you go through that principle number 4, what a stakeholder will take away is greater investor confidence and enhanced brand reputation and attractiveness. Principle 5, business should respect and promote human rights. Enhance their human rights and ethics policies and processes, association with the global coalition. Once your company is promoting the human rights, whenever a joint venture partner, if he is some MNC comes, they are going to see your anti-bribery policy, they are going to see your human rights policies and all these things. If you are complying with that, obviously, then what's called as desire to get associated with will be always more. Principle 6, business should respect and make efforts to protect and restore the environment. Environmentally compliant company, corporate water neutrality, established processes for waste and biodiversity management. These are the takeaways. Principle 7, business when engaging in influencing public and regulatory policy should do in a such a manner that is responsible and transparent. So robust public advocacy on global matters. Principle number 8, business should promote inclusive growth and equitable development, enhance the engagement of local communities, enhance their brand reputation and attractiveness. Principle number 9, last principle, business should engage with provide value to their consumers in a responsible manner, enhance their customer engagement and product information disclosure. SOPs, policies for cyber security and data privacy for customers, sustainable product labeling. If you really read and understand these 9 principles, in the good old days we say Ramarajya. Just like that, Ramarajya can prevail in the corporates provided that they understand these 9 principles and they go that. Just to summarize that, see what all they have covered, what is left out. I couldn't understand anything more a corporate can do. First, they are talking about that integrity and ethics about at the board level, at the top level. Second, they are talking about the goods and services, what they are providing to the customers. There should be sustainable quality and safe. Third, they are talking about the employees' well-being. They are talking about health, hygiene, their training, whatnot and all. Fourth, they are talking about responsibility towards the stakeholders. Fifth, they are talking about human rights. Sixth, they are talking about protecting and restoring the environment. Not only protection, even restoration also. That means you are bound to exploit the environment. Suppose, for example, for your wood requirement, you have to cut the tree. But how you will replenish it? If you cut the 1 tree today, you plant 2 trees. That is how the thing is. That is called a replenishment. Then they talk about the regulatory policies, inclusive growth and sustainable development. Last but not the least, provide value to the customer. So in 2018, that SEBI BRR framework should also be, the MCA has constituted a committee, and that committee has said that SEBI BRR framework is also to be revised. And then this committee has suggested that BRR is to be replaced by BRSR. BRSR, this committee also has reported that BRSR reporting is also to be integrated with MCA 21 portal. Because anything, the moment it is MCA 21 portal means you have to do it in the moment you do it, it is going to be utilized by all the governmental department. That is the purpose of this, which would ensure that all information already filed with the MCA 21 portal by companies would be automatically filled while filing the BRSR. So the endeavor of the committee has been to ensure that BRSR reporting format would serve as a single source for all 9 non-financial disclosures. Committee has made conscious efforts to balance the objective of self-regulation through disclosures by ensuring that there is no undue compliance on companies. What kind of initiatives SEBI has taken? So far, what we have discussed is MCA. So SEBI, what kind of this is what it has taken? SEBI has actually taken more from the MCA initiatives only, and further they have mandated it to the listed companies. So effective June 15, 2023, annual report of top 1,000 listed entities based on the market cap. The annual report shall contain a business responsibility and sustainability report on the environmental, social, and governance disclosures. The assurance of the business responsibility and sustainability report core shall also be obtained with effect from and in the manner as may be specified. BRSR score, what kind of, how it is to be obtained and how, in what way that is to be obtained, that it has to be specified. More likely, it will be coming before end of this financial year. Now, this structure of BRSR format is segregated, as I told you already, essential and leadership indicators. Essential indicators are mandatory, leadership indicators are optional. The leadership indicators in the BRSR format also feature. So when you are reporting to the BRSR, you cannot confine yourself with your company only. You have to extend it to your value chain partners also. So how and to what extent you have extended that to the value chain partners that you have to report in the leadership indicators. The leadership indicators in the BRSR format also includes disclosures related to the value chain of the listed entities. BRSR formats are expected to bring in more standardization, which will enable better measurement and comparability and be helpful to investors to make better investment decisions. Companies to engage more meaningfully with their stakeholders by encouraging them to look beyond financials and towards social and environmental impacts. If you see the BRSR format now, there are three sections are there in the BRSR format. Section A talks about general disclosures. This is more about the information pertaining to the company, its products, operations, employees, turnover, holding, subsidiary details, overview of business conduct are to be given. So if you want to understand that BRSR format completely, you have to go through that. But this is the primarily the major indicators. What you have to give is this in section A, that is general disclosures. About everything about your company in general, you have to give it here. Section B talks about management and process disclosures. In this section, businesses have to demonstrate the structure, policies, and processes put in place towards adopting the NGRBC principles and the core elements. In case the business entity chooses not to adopt or report any of the principles, the same should be stated and along with the reasons and impact of the same. Section C talks about principle-wise performance disclosures. In this section, entities demonstrate their performance in integrating the principles and core elements with key processes and decisions, and also report any negative consequences of its operations on the social, environmental, and economic forms. That means what? While you are reporting about your ESG initiatives of your company, any kind of disastrous consequences have taken place, or any kind of show cause notices you have received, or any kind of impact it has caused, which is there already in the public domain. If you are not reporting, you will get caught. That means even if no show cause notice have been received from any regulators, it is not there in the public domain, but you know that some kind of environmental impact in a negative way has taken place, that you have to report it. Because if you are not reporting it today, but if tomorrow it comes to the public knowledge or the regulators' knowledge, you will be in difficulties. What are the major differences between BRSR and BRR? Just one to understand that. Reporting sections in BRR were 5. In BRSR, it is only 3. Format universal single earlier. It is now, you can say, essential and leadership indicators, which was not there in BRR. There were 59 questions in BRR. Now you have 140 questions in BRSR. Out of that 140 questions, 98 questions are mandatory and 42 questions are leadership indicators. And indicators are mostly qualitative as far as BRR is concerned. In BRSR, it is qualitative as well as quantitative. Disclosure as far as concerned, reporting in the annual report. As far as BRSR is concerned, apart from disclosure in the annual report, you have to also disclose it on the MCA portal. This is the major differences between BRR and BRSR. What are the advantages of BRSR? Increased value creation. Companies that embed sustainability into its core operations builds a business that lasts longer, outperform its competitors, and has a higher enterprise value vis-a-vis its peers who are resistant to change. Definitely, anything having an extra edge over others, it will give you a benefit. So BRSR is the same thing. Stronger brand positioning increases its brand value and enhance the brand value, and as far as you are financing from the investors or lending from the lenders is concerned. Attraction and retention of talent. Obviously, that employees will love to work for your company provided because of the brand image, because of the image of your company and other things. Investors can make informed decisions and global investments and a seamless access to global funds with competitive interest rates, large capital funds, and as pension funds and sovereign funds. In fact, in future, as far as your mutual funds are concerned, or as far as your
other HNI investors are concerned, they're all going to look for your ESG ratings and accordingly they will do it. Companies which are not ESG compliant may face hurdles in future for procurement and raising of funds. Now quickly let us see the BRSR because several companies are, it is a Herculean task as far as preparation of a BRSR report is concerned. Because when we read the 9 elements, as I told you, there are 140 questions are there based on the 9 principles which you have to answer. For that, as a company secretary, what you have to do, that will be there in my last slide, but it is going to be a Herculean task for you as a company secretary. In fact, some of the companies are outsourcing this particular activity. So this is a niche area for you as company secretaries. If you have a good understanding of this, you can volunteer yourself to the companies that you can enable them to prepare a BRSR. For that, what you have to do it? Because the problem with what the companies are facing is 2. Number 1, coordination among the departments. Number 2 is that how to reflect that information into the BRSR report. How much to reveal, how much not to reveal. Okay, can I write a full essay or can I write it into shrink into 2 lines? Who will decide that? Who will guide them? That is exactly where company secretaries are coming because we have been given about 3 to 4 BRSR reports, some 3 to 4 of our clients requested last year to that assignment, we got it. So I'm sure that every one of you can get this particular opportunity that not necessarily you might be doing a secretarial audit, but if you can develop the ability to understand and prepare a how the BRSR report is to be prepared, you can volunteer to your prospective clients as far as this is concerned. So now let us see that principle-wise performance disclosures. Section C of BRSR format is aimed at helping entities demonstrate their performance in integrating principles and core elements with key processes and decisions. As I told you, essential and leadership indicators are there. And leadership indicators are mostly with regard to your value chain partners. Now, what happens is that means your role is not only confined to your company. You have to ask that company secretary, by are you extending this to your what's called as value chain partners also? If it is so, means what? Say, for example, some companies, if they are giving a subcontract, if they are engaging a subcontractor, they also ensure that subcontractor is also deducting the PF, PSA and other things and is properly depositing in the authorities concerned. Otherwise, what happens is some subcontractors, what they are doing is they are just deducting it, they are not, depositing it. So here the major company is taking the responsibility to discipline the subcontractors. It is nothing but when simply your company discharging your ESG is not the end of it. What it is expected as far as BRSR is concerned, apart from you, your value chain partners are also you have to encourage them, rather you have to mandate them also to comply with the BRSR things, the ESG things are concerned. In the BRR that is not there, in BRSR that is there. First, ethical, transparent and accountable business. Essential indicators. Under the principle 1, of course, you are not given the full statement, but the same statement you can refer to. Essential indicators are what? Percentage coverage by training and awareness programs or any of the principles for board, KMP and other employees and workers. It is asking you that now the question is there. Have you given the training to your board? Have you given training to your KMPs? Have you given training to your senior management about the awareness programs as far as BRSR is concerned? Now you have to answer that question. Second, details of fines, penalties, punishment, award, compounding fees, settlement amounts paid. Details of the appeals, if anything is there. Means during the year, any kind of fines, penalties, etc., have been imposed upon you. How many you are contesting, how many you are not contesting. Now here the question comes, which penalties, under which law? Am I have to give all the laws or am I have to give some laws? Who will guide? Again, as a company secretary, you have to guide them. Number 3, number of directorships, KMPs, employees, workers, against whom disciplinary action was taken by any law enforcement agency. Details of complaints with regard to conflict of interest with regard to directors and KMPs. Is there any conflict of interest is there? So if the conflict of interest is there, how it was resolved, that is to be reported upon.
These are the major things. There are so many other questions are there in principle 1. As far as the leadership indicators are concerned, awareness programs conducted for value chain partners and any principles. This is what exactly I was talking about. Your company cannot confine to yourself. You have to extend the training program not only to your board, your KMPs or your senior management. You have to extend the training program to your value chain partners also. That means what you have to educate them, you have to handhold them also. As far as your district is concerned, you cannot simply say, look, I am complying, you also comply. Because your value chain partners may not be as big in size as you are. Principle 2. Percentage of R&D and CapEx investments to improve the environmental and social impacts of product and processes to total R&D and CapEx investments. See here what they're asking you. Companies might be having their R&D expenses as well as the capital expenditure. That might be for business purpose. Suppose a company has capitalization of, say, for example, CapEx plan of 100 crores, R&D of 20 crores. But what they're asking is not that figures. What they're asking you is percentage of R&D and CapEx investments to improve the environment and social impacts. That means what kind of ESG risks you are facing, and to improve that, or to mitigate that risks, what kind of efforts you are making, how much money you are investing as far as R&D is concerned and as far as your CapEx investments are concerned. Processes in place to safely reclaim products wastage for reusing, recycling and disposal at the end of the life. Same thing, what kind of waste you are generating it, how you are disposing it out. Are you recycling any waste? If you are recycling it, how you are recycling it? Whether the waste collection plan is in line with the extended producer responsibility plan submitted to pollution control boards, if not, the steps taken for that. Leadership indicators, whether the entity conducted life cycle perspective assessments for any of its products or services, any significant or social environmental concerns and risks arising from production to disposal of the entity's products or services, percentage of recycled or reused input material to total material used in production. That means what, say, for example, your company is generating plastic. That plastic, is it a recycling plastic or not? If it is a recycling plastic, to what extent of your total production plan? And similarly, any kind of waste creation, that waste is being recycled or it is only to be disposed of. You cannot recycle it. So there are some kind of a wastage, you may not be able to recycle it. In such case, how you are disposing it down? Okay. Then, third principle, details of measures for the well-being of employees and workers, types of insurance you have taken for employees, what kind of maternity benefits you are offering, cost incurred for the well-being measures as a percentage of total revenue of the company. Normally what happens is we always give employee cost. In the employee cost, we take only the remuneration aspects. What here they are asking is, for employee welfare, out of the total revenue, how much you are spending? Even employee cost for bigger companies used to be 2 to 3% only. Now, as far as the employee welfare is concerned, how much percentage you are spending it? Mechanism available to receive and redress grievances of your employees and workers. Details of trainings given to the employees and workers. Safety related incidents and measures taken to ensure a safe and healthy workplace. Leadership indicators, number of employees and workers having suffered high consequence work-related injuries, ill health and fatalities. Obviously, health hazards are there, or it is called as work-related hazards. In that work-related hazards, how many employees got any kind of effects, and that you have to give the details of the same. Actions taken to address the significant risks, concerns of value chain partners. Measures undertaken by the entity to ensure the statutory dues have been deducted and deposited by the value chain partner. This is what I told you as far as your PF, ESI, TDS and other things are concerned of your employees. Whether your value chain partners have deducted that properly and deposited it properly, that is your responsibility to verify that and report in the BRSR format. That's why I told you that BRSR preparation is not that simple. Principle number 4. Essential indicators, process to identify the list of stakeholder groups, channels of communication, frequency of engagement, purpose and scope of engagement. How you are going to communicate with your shareholders. Is it only the quarterly results? That is only financial parameter, and that is a mandatory provision. Other than that, how you are engaging with your stakeholders, that is what they are asking here, the report. And leadership indicators are processes for consultation between stakeholders and the board on economic, environmental, and social topics. Details of instances of engagement with and actions taken to address concerns of vulnerable, marginalized stakeholder groups. Principle 5 about human rights. Employees and workers who have been provided training on human rights issues. Because several times it happens, the workers even not knowing what are their human rights. Who will tell them what kind of rights they have? So you have to give them the training and you have to tell them that. In fact, when I was talking to one of my friends about the human rights, who will do that? You are supposed to do that here. You cannot say, you have to educate your workers, you have to educate your consumers, you have to educate your suppliers. That is what is expected in the PRS. And that's why it is not implemented across the corporates, but it is implemented on the 1,000 top listed companies only, because at least these people have to do it, if not others. Minimum mechanisms in place to redress grievances related to human rights issues, number of complaints received and addressed. Leadership indicators, details of vigilance processes being modified, introduced as a result of addressing human rights. When any kind of human rights are abused, human rights are compromised, have you made any kind of process changes? If it is so, what kind of changes you have made? Details of the scope and coverage of human rights, due diligence conducted, sexual harassment, child labor, forced labor. Forced labor, we all know bonded labor, it is not there, but still it is there. So bonded labor, if it is there, discrimination at workplace, Okay. Discrimination at workplace is, now my exam started, just like my last 15 minutes. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me have some water. Because my doctor advised me when I start speaking, I never take water. He told me that if you are going to do that, your vocal cords gets affected. So now let me do that. So anyway, human rights basically is that any kind of abuse, human rights have taken place. That means demarcation among the employees based on the caste, creed, or whatever it is. Even based on the cadre also. As I told you in one company secretary's office, I told you that what kind of chase they have, that also is not supposed, because this principle is getting violated. And restoring environment, energy conservation, water withdrawal resource. What kind of water you are withdrawing? How much surface water, groundwater, third party, sea water, desalinated water? You have to give that. Water discharge and air emissions and greenhouse gas emissions, waste generation and disposal mechanisms, operations offices around ecologically sensitive areas, compliant with applicable environmental laws, etc. Aforesaid issues with respect to value chain partners also. Now, vigilance is in responsible and transparent manner. The dealings ought to be affiliations with any trade and industry chambers, associations you have. Have you got trade unions? If it is so, that top 10 trade and industry chambers, associations, the entity is a member of, are you any member of any associations? Details of corrective action with regard to issues related to anti-competitive conduct of the company. And indicators leadership is public policy positions advocated by the entity. That means, are you giving any kind of amendments to the public policies to the regulators? That means, are you getting engaged with the regulators? That is also you have to report it here. Sometimes what happens is some companies, though they are big in size, they don't engage with the regulators or policy makers. Are you getting engaged or not? That is what they are asking you here. And then principle 8, details of social impact assessments. And this is not much. Last principle is value to consumers, mechanism to receive and respond consumer complaints and feedback. Several people, what they do is there is a complaint, the complaint box is there. In fact, several of you might have seen a cartoon also, that complaint box, and nature there is a dustbin is there. You just put your complaint in that and you will straight away go to the dustbin. We are not talking here about that kind of complaints. So you have to say how many consumer complaints have come, what kind of feedback has come and how you have tackled that. Cyber security and related risks, data privacy related issues, instances of data breaches, if any, all these things you have to give it here. As far as the leadership indicators are concerned, channels perform where information or products or services of the entity can be assessed. BRSR core. This is a framework which has been developed to achieve the twin objectives of improving credibility and limiting the cost of compliance. It consists of select key performance indicators that each E, S, and G attributes for which listed entities shall need to obtain reasonable assurance. So I'm not going through the BRSR core because it is not applicable as of now. It is going to be applicable most likely by end of this financial year. I am expecting that BRSR core related formats as per other prescribed procedure will come. Again, Parmeshwar or Mr. The organology will invite me, that time I will come. Otherwise, if everything I explained today, then you won't invite me again. This is value chain partners, I already told you. Now, applicability of BR score, as and when it is going to be mandated, how it is going to be done is 23-24. As of now, it is there. But when they are going to specify that, we don't know, but they are going to implement in phases, this BRSR core. 23-24, top 150 listed companies. 24-25, top 250. 25-26, top 500. And 26-27, by that time, top 1,000 listed companies which are giving this BRSR reports. So BRSR report and BRSR core are two different things. Okay. Key disclosures of social security. Okay, now my final, this is very important for you. BRSR implementation path and role of a company secretary. Awareness should be created at board and committee level in ESG, BRSR, and sustainability. Please ensure this thing. This is a very, very important thing. Unless until, in fact, recently in one of the corporates where we are extended a training program to them, I said that days have gone. A company secretary who is the compliance officer, everything he will ensure the compliance is, forget about it. Whether it is related party transactions, whether it is corporate social responsibility, whether it is insider trading regulations, whether it is takeover regulations, all these things, company secretary on his own cannot implement this. And several company secretaries who are part of our clients, they say that, sir, हमारा कोई सुनता नहीं है. मैं कहा मुझे बुलाओ, मैं सुनाता हूँ. Then they started inviting us. Believe me or not, in some companies, I have said that insider trading regulations, I told them what is going to, in case of a non-compliance of insider trading regulations, how the company's image is going to get affected. Forget about penalties and prosecutions and all those things. And what kind of a role a company secretary and the board has to play, for which the company secretary is to be empowered. Even the company secretaries of those companies are very happy now because of that particular training program. They have been empowered by their boards. Because if you don't empower your company secretary, tomorrow you will be in trouble. And the company secretary, the audit committee chairman has a direct link with the company secretary as far as compliance is concerned. So ESG also, if you want to prepare your BRSR report at the end of the year, those companies, wherever it is the top 1,000 listed companies, please ensure that BRSR report you cannot prepare after 31st March. You have to start the preparation right from April onwards. And then you have to go on developing it. Several people ask us a question that how Reliance board meeting for approval of financials takes place on April 17th of the year. Several of you might be knowing it. Our 31st March results are approved in the third week of April. Our annual general meeting earlier used to take place in the month of third week of June. How it happens? Because we have a concurrent audit of the things. Secretarial audits, we do it on quarterly basis. Same is the case as far as the ESG is concerned. You have to prepare the ESG on quarterly basis. That is one thing you have to ensure. Board should take the lead and should constitute a subcommittee to review the progress from time to time and also to empower the company secretary adequately to ensure the implementation and compliance. Awareness across the organization is to be created with regard to ESG and BRSR and the 9 principles. It is the company secretary who has to take the responsibility together with their board that this is going to be the future of the company. These are the advantages, these are the disadvantages. This is how the company is to be prepared from now on before it becomes mandatory. And for that, if it is to be tried, he has to get the training done. Demarcation and assignment of responsibility with regard to compliance principles wise and the reporting on compliances and other related information and submission to fulfill BRSR report. Sensitize and provide adequate training from time to time to all concerned. Please remember that BRSR, if it is to be reported, each and except your office boys, everybody else have to contribute to that 9 principles. For that, you have to create training across the organization and you have to sensitize all your employees across the organization. Constitute internal committees apart from the board committee to ensure smooth implementation of policies and processes. Ask your board to constitute an internal committee, an implementation committee for BRSR. Let your CEO, CFO, or company secretary and some senior people be there as part of that particular committee so that they will understand the importance of that in implementing this. Because otherwise people won't give the information to the company secretary to prepare the BRSR. And company secretary should be the coordinator and play a significant role in ensuring the above. Thanks very much for your patient listening. God bless you all. Any questions out there?
Thank you, Sudhakar sir, for the wonderful session. I would now like to call upon Mr. C.S. Mohan Kumar, the Central Council member, to give a vote of thanks to our esteemed speaker.
Friends, namaskara once again. You might be thinking why these two people who are there in the inaugural are sitting again, but the thing is, originally the Central Council members were, our speech was not there in the original program sheet. Because MP is coming, we have to complete the thing within an hour. And so, as always, the Bangalore chapter who are extremely good in hospitality, they thought that these people are sitting in the first session, they are not at all speaking, so let them speak in the, at least in the first technical session. But things change, like the climate change, and since MP came late, they then asked us to speak. So, Sudhakar sir, wonderful, you handled it with a lot of humor, right from asking how many people it is relevant, and again, till the time completing, again, finally, like examination, they have asked me to conclude, and also saying that other things you call me again and I will come. And thank you very much, sir, because both the ESG and BRSR, very wide topics you covered a lot, particularly touching upon the 9 principles, and also the onerous responsibility on the part of employed CS as well as the practicing company secretaries. Wonderful scope, and also responsibility is cast upon the company secretary. So, which you touched upon very beautifully. One thing is, you mentioned that this is a topic which you are not completely familiar with, but still you put quite a lot of hard work. And thank you very much. Please give a big round of applause to you. And I think Venkatramana would like to take a minute to inform about another very important program. After that, we will break for tea, and next session panelists are already here. So we would like you to come very fast. Before Ramana comes, I request Mahadev Nagari, Treasurer SARC, to kindly come and give a memento to the speaker, Sudhakar sir.
Thank you very much, Mohan sir. There is only one small announcement I would like to say. We are going to Hyderabad CCGRT is going to organize a program with Nalsar University. It's a national research program, first of its kind, never done before. The research papers will be invited on various subjects. You can see the research papers will be invited from the company secretaries, lawyers, and other professionals on the subjects like alternate dispute resolution, insolvency, bankruptcy, corporate law, securities laws, including this ESG, labor laws, and Indian Stamp Act, banking and FEMA regulations, corporate governance in digital era. All these topics, there are subtopics and themes. This brochure will be circulated to you electronically. I request all of you to enroll for this program, and this is not a lecture session program, and the outcome of the total research will be submitted in the form of recommendations to the concerned ministries to bring necessary changes in the existing laws. So with this brief, friends, I request all of you to try to register for this program. Thank you all.
Thank you, sirs, and let's break for a tea for just 5 minutes. Our independent directors who are veterans in their fields are already here. Apologies to all the directors who are already here. Just give us few more minutes and then we will be commencing with the session. Please come back in the next exactly 5 minutes, please. Thank you. In the meantime, request the volunteers to kindly organize the dais for the panel discussion. Madam Sharda would be the moderator for that.
Thank you.
We are spending a lot of time. Yeah, before we call the dignitaries onto the dais, there is a 1 minute video that's being played from NASDAQ, who are one of our prime sponsors for the day. So may I request Noor to kindly host the BC, please. The MC Prasanna is just here.
Operating the world's first electronic exchange for more than 50 years. Beyond an exchange, we are a global technology leader with a rich history in corporate governance. NASDAQ Governance Solutions supports boards and executive teams with thought leadership insights and integrated solutions to create efficient board and management workflows, accelerate board performance, and drive governance excellence. From the Fortune 500 to private companies and nonprofits, nearly 4,500 organizations in 88 countries trust NASDAQ's technology, advisors, and client support to power board insights and support their key governance needs. Here's why. Our top-rated board management software, NASDAQ Board Vantage, is designed with added security and a customizable dashboard so boards can easily prepare, engage, and make decisions. From communicating and managing meetings to accessing board materials at the click of a button, directors and corporate secretaries can accomplish all of their board duties in one place, no matter where they are. NASDAQ's compliance solutions transforms painful, clunky questionnaires into a dynamic and streamlined process. Our proprietary directors and officers questionnaires help save time, ensure a smooth experience, and improve data integrity, especially when collecting required filings information. Sensitive information is stored in our platform to ensure auditability and accuracy. NASDAQ's board advisory team facilitates board and management evaluations to assess effectiveness with expert third-party objectivity. We provide results and actionable insights. And the NASDAQ Center for Board Excellence is a convener of board members and like-minded leaders dedicated to strengthening corporate governance through community, content, and collaboration. Across our solutions, sensitive board-level data is protected by multiple layers of security and the same NASDAQ information security team that monitors the global markets. Plus, our award-winning and knowledgeable client success team is available 24/7 around the globe. We are on standby to ensure boards are receiving the level of service you would expect NASDAQ to deliver. NASDAQ Governance Solutions always provides transparent pricing and partners with organizations to help ensure your investment yields high returns. We tailor solutions to meet your needs and fully invest in your long-term success. Around the world, organizations trust NASDAQ to listen to them and help them drive better business outcomes. In the past year, we achieved 95% client retention rate, which speaks to our clients' loyalty and our deep commitment to their success. Allow us to provide peace of mind and share how we can help your board and executive team rewrite tomorrow. NASDAQ, achieve governance excellence with the name you trust.
Yes, sir. Good, sir.
Thank you, NASDAQ, for that. And now it's time to call upon the panelists and the moderator. Before that, I would like to hand over the baton to the MC for the next session, that is Prasanna Bedi. Over to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the second technical session, panel discussion on the role of independent directors in the corporate governance and the business reporting. So for this session, I would like to call upon the moderator, CS Sharda SC. And along with the moderator, I would like to call upon the stage panelist, Ms. Revati Ashok, Mr. C.S. Shankaran, and Mr. Arun Balakrishnan. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all our esteemed panelists and the moderator, please. I would like to call upon Mr. Mahadev, SIRC member, to please give a welcome to this session and the speakers and the moderator.
May I request Mr. Mahadev to kindly come out to the dais as well? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Devika and Krishnan. Very good evening to all of you. And this is my special privilege to stand before Bangaloreans. My counterparts as CS from Bangalore, that is giving me some kind of goosebumps. because so far I'm well acquainted only with Hyderabad environment, not with Bangalore environment. Yeah. Having said that, I'm taking privilege to welcome all of you to this wonderful session. The session is role of independent directors in the corporate governance and business reporting. And this is going to be handled by all the three panelists and mainly being controlled by the moderators, Ms. Sharda. But before handing over the session totally to the panelists as well as the moderator, it is my duty to present the topic to this guest audience. When I said this role of independent directors in corporate governance and business reporting, I want to connect exclusively to today's topics, today introduction as well as our Sudhakar sir's ESG and BRSR reporting. In the morning, you all have witnessed, that wonderful session and speech of Mr. Tejasvi Surya. He talked about one very pertinent point. You all might have noticed. Again, I want to reiterate with permission of all of you. It is like India is no more a rule follower, but is a rule-making position. When we are going to be the rule-making situation, or we are empowering ourselves or commanding that kind of situation, that rule-making comes as a policy decision. Once we say that it is a policy decision, that policy decisions, when it is compared to the corporate world, it definitely goes to the board. Because the board only will make the decision. When I said this, having said this, it is the board's prerogative. Obviously, all the independent directors are going to make a phenomenal significance in making that policy decisions. Without their knowledge, without their expertise, nothing is going to happen. Then let me also connect to the topic, technical session of ESG and BRSR. Just now, Sudhakar sir has completed. Again, you all might have witnessed, right? It is not going to stick only to the company. It is going to layer by layer. And again, there is a responsibility on saying that what to be reported and what not to be reported. By saying this, you all might be, some kind of sounding is there, like discretion is there. What to be reported and what not to be reported, there is a discretion. If discretion is given to plain promoter directors, they will try to manage. And that is where our independent directors play a significant role in bringing that kind of disclosures, that kind of transparency, that kind of, governance into the corporate world, where we can witness the real corporate governance. So with this, I want to hand over the baton to Madam Sharda. Planted to Ms. Revati Ashok. Great round of applause. I request Mr. Suresh from Kia Motors to please come forward and hand over the plant for Mr. V. Sankaran. May I now request Mr. Kundan Lal to please come forward and hand over the planter to Mr. Arun Balakrishnan. Before I call upon one more person to hand over the planter to Ms. Sharda, I want to take one small thing. So far in CS fraternity, I thought that, my name is very exclusive and unique. Mahadev is only one person who is available in the CS fraternity. Until and unless I have come over here. I now found one Mr. Mahadev Prakash. I now request Mr. Mahadev Prakash to come forward and present a planter to Ms. Sharada. Thank you. Now I request Mr. Prasanna to take forward. Thank you, one and all. Yeah, with the permission of members and panelists, I want to sit in the audience rather than sitting on the dais. Thank you. Thank you, Mahadev sir, for doing the intro. I would now like to call upon CS Vishwas Hegde, the treasurer of the Bangalore chapter, to introduce our moderator, CS Sharda SC.
It's my pleasure to introduce the moderator of this session, CS Sharda IC. Bangalore chapter knows very well about her. People who don't know her, this is just an introduction for those people. So she's been the first woman chairman of ICSI Bangalore chapter during the year 2014. And she's also a member of expert group on secretarial standard during the year 2020 and 2022. She has held various responsibilities in BCIC, FKCCI, and she is also a writer. And she continued to write a newsletter called Samhita for over 14 years. She is an alumni of IIM Bangalore and a distinguished Toastmasters from Toastmasters International. She is a woman independent director on various boards, including public sector undertakings. Those who don't know, she is a cancer victor and speaks on various forums and platforms about the cancer awareness and other incidental aspects of recovery from the cancer. Thank you, madam. Thank you for being the moderator of this session. We welcome for this particular session. Over to you, Mr. Prasanna.
I would like to call upon CS Devika Satyanarayana, Secretary Bangalore Chapter ICSI, to introduce the panelists.
Thank you, Prasanna. Quickly, let me take you through the resume of distinguished guests who are on the dais. Mr. Arun Balakrishnan. Shri Arun Balakrishnan is the former chairman and managing director of HPCL, founder chairman of HPCL Methyl Energy Limited, a joint venture refining company of HPCL and LN Methyl Investments at Bathinda and Punjab. A graduate in chemical engineering, he completed his post-graduation in management from the Indian Institute of Management, Bengaluru in 1976. He was also chairman, Scientific Advisory Committee and Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Government of India. Currently is non-executive independent director of the boards of many prestigious companies. His expertise inter alia includes science and technology, project management, finance, human resources, and general management. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Alumni Award 2008 from his alma mater, the Indian Institute of Management, Bengaluru. Welcome you, sir, with a big round of applause. I take the pride and privilege to introduce the next panelist, Ms. Revathi Ashok, co-founder Strategy Garage and former managing director, Tishman Speyer. Professional experience, Revathi Ashok madam is a co-founder of Strategy Garage and strategy and growth consulting firm for startups, mid-stage companies, helping them build value and scale. Madam started her corporate career with Sony Corporation and has since held senior leadership positions in global corporations such as managing director, Tishman Speyer PE Fund, where she was one among top 100 global partners, worldwide CFO of Centerlink, a US-based NASDAQ-listed IT services company, first woman from India to be the CFO of a NASDAQ-listed company. She is a startup evangelist and has been a mentor and strategic advisor to several startups and an active angel investor with investments in over 18 startups, of which Dhruva is now a unicorn. She is on the board of Athena Infonetics and a public company, public policy and development consulting firm that she mentored since inception, that now has global operations in several developing countries and the US. Madam is an independent director on boards of several leading giants from diverse industries in the country listed or public limited, such as Wellspun, Quest, Manipal, Cigna, Barbecue Nation, including chair of the audit committee of Sensera, Shell, MRPL, Microland and ADC Comscope, and chair of the NRC at Quest and AstraZeneca. I mean, she's got a long list to go. I would like to cut short here. She has won many awards and accolades. Recently, she was awarded the Distinguished Alumnus Award by her alma mater, IIM Bengaluru, for her work spanning the corporate world, entrepreneurship and philanthropic work. Gold medalist in sectoral specialization from IIM Bengaluru, named by INC 42 as one of the leading women angel investors in the country, awarded Women of Distinctive Vocation by Rotary Bengaluru Downtown, and many more. Madam, with your permission, I would like to cut short your resume here because she's won so many awards, and it's an honor for me to be doing the introduction of hers. Thank you so much, and with a big round of applause, welcome you once again. Last but not the least, another veteran here, we have Mr. V. Shankaran, an MCOM, DMA, ACMA, and an ACS. Mr. Shankaran holds a postgraduate degree in commerce and is an associate member of both the Institutes of Cost Accountants of India and the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He's a finance professional, and he's also held high positions in corporate sector and had worked both in government sector, RBI and Ministry of Finance, and in private sector, well-established companies like Larsen & Toubro, Signode, SAFE, and Ernst & Young. While in financial services industry, he was the chairman of Equipment Leasing Association of India and the governor of Chennai chapter of Association of Merchant Bankers of India, AMBI. Mr. Shankaran had taken active interest in academic circles. While serving in Mumbai, he was a visiting professor at Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management Studies. He has presented technical papers and has been a speaker on many occasions in the conferences held by the professional institutes. Mr. Shankaran is currently on the boards of 2 established companies as an independent director, holding responsibilities as the chairman of audit committee and an RC committee. His current focus and areas of interest includes corporate governance and risk management. We welcome you, sir, and with another big round of applause. It's my hands are actually shivering because it's such a very powerful panel sitting on the dais. And may I request Madam Sharda to please take it over from here. Thank you. Thank you, Devika, for that speed reading in the interest of time. At the outset, I would like to thank Bangalore chapter and SIRC for giving me this opportunity to moderate this very esteemed panel here. I would just like to start with a quote that I received. It's actually a message. It just said Japanese wisdom. Many of you may have received that, but I thought it is very relevant to this. The context setting has already been done very well by Mahadev. So you have spared me that. So I thought, let me start with this. It's just 4 lines. It goes like this. If it's not yours, don't take it. If it's not right, don't do it. If it's not true, don't say it. If you don't know, be quiet. Actual word use is shut up. I felt shut up is a little very strong. So permit me to have replaced with be quiet. I would like to add, especially for the independent directors, if you know, speak up. I think that's the responsibility that all of them carry as independent directors. And friends, that's the universal law of dharma, whether it is a Japanese wisdom or Chinese or Indian or whatever, it's the universal law of dharma that helps us to uphold governance, not only in corporates, but also in our personal lives. So it's governance in all walks of life. If I were to go back to this and try and link to some attributes or aspects of corporate governance, I think this is how it will translate. If it's not yours, don't take it, which means no unlawful acquisition. If it's not right, don't do it. Focusing on integrity and compliance beyond law. If it's not true, don't say it. Check facts, speak the truth. If you don't know, be quiet, use your discretion. And of course, if you know, speak up, be bold, say. Now, welcome to this second technical session on the topic, the role of independent directors in corporate governance and business reporting. Now, I will take the liberty of reading a few lines from our own institute's publication. I don't know how many of you have got this, read this, are aware that our institute has published a guidance note on independent directors, which is very, very useful, not only for our fraternity, but also for the independent directors. It gives a lot of insights on the roles and responsibilities, the challenges that you face, the liabilities and the rights that you have. And it is quite a comprehensive one, which has been deliberated over several months at the Secretarial Standards Board. Let me take the liberty of just reading a few lines. The very basis of the institution of independent directors is to ensure board independence, protect the company from any opportunistic indiscretion that could be committed by the promoters and the management, and promoting investor protection through good corporate governance, integrity, and accountability. Now, that's quite lofty expectations, right, from the independent directors fraternity. But given the rich experience of the panelists, I think a combined man years of over 120 years is what I can roughly translate the kind of experience that they bring. What you can expect from the awesome threesome who are present on the stage today is the following: the wealth of wisdom, variety of perspectives. That's what you will be getting, boardroom insights, and futuristic outlook for corporate governance. We are at the end of the day, but are you all ready to listen to this panel? Well then, without much ado, let me now request the panelists to make their opening remarks on the theme. I would just request the panelists to limit it to just 5 minutes each so that we can get into the conversation. After that, I'll be happy to engage with all of them in a conversation on a few aspects of corporate governance and business reporting. Thank you. I would request the lady on the panel, Ms. Revati Ashok, to step forward and give her opening remarks to begin this. You can sit there, or you can come here. You can use the mic and please feel free. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanda, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, over time, I think the kind of responsibility that is being put on independent directors has been increasing significantly. The kind of onus that is expected. You're supposed to be an expert on several subjects, and constantly we find that we have to continue to update our knowledge. If we have to be effective, I think we have to constantly update our knowledge. I was jocularly saying when we were chatting at tea time that it has come to the level where there is an expectation, the famous Raymond's case, which is now doing the news. You might have read that they are, the proxy advisors, IIAS has said that the independent directors need to get very active because the two major shareholders, husband and wife, have had a serious spat, and that might affect the reputation of the company. Now, that is a very big question. What kind of, how does an independent director get involved in something like this? So I think the way the government is looking at it, the expectation from the independent director is becoming very vast, significant, over-encompassing on several different aspects. To honestly expect an independent director who spends a few hours every month on every company, it is of course imperative that we spend more time with the company than just 4 mandatory board meetings. We do spend a lot more time with companies on various aspects, but even so, we are still outsiders. And therefore, the question always is, when there is so much onerous reporting on our side, how do we put the guardrails around to ensure that we are at the same time protected, we are doing the right by all the stakeholders, we are asking the right questions to push the management to do things that they are supposed to be doing, and the founders. So I think it's a very onerous responsibility. It is not, I think, easy, and sometimes there is pushback because companies do feel that independent directors are possibly pushing the limit and asking too many questions. Ideally, they may not want too many questions to be asked. Nevertheless, it's our duty to explain that there is a lot of liability on our heads. It's not a question of not trusting somebody. It is not a question of not knowing that things will be right, but asking all those questions and not just looking for a response, looking for evidence-based response. Because a lot of people who have made mistakes, we don't need to name the luminaries on the various scam-ridden cases that you're seeing in the country. these were all led by eminent independent directors. And therefore, when we place, there has to be a healthy sort of skepticism about whatever we hear. We should always look for some evidence and try and get wherever possible if the issues are critical. I think you must get some third-party validation from outside. So I think I'll stop at this. We have enough opportunity for conversation, and I will pass it on.
Thanks very much. Since this is the ICSI program, let me say I've got a long-standing relationship with ICSI, starting from the year 2011, after my superannuation as head of Hindustan Petroleum. I was invited to join the ICSI Central Council as a government nominee, and I was there as a government nominee of ICSI in Delhi from 2011 to 14. This period was very interesting in the sense that this was the time when the Companies Act 2013 was getting a final shape. So I had the privilege of, at least listening to all the discussions, if not participating very fruitfully for that matter. So whenever I meet a company secretary, there is some kind of good relationship which forms. The second thing is that this Companies Act 2013 did one great thing for company secretaries. They have made you a KMP, key management personnel. And I think that has changed the complexion of this profession. Of course, cost accountants, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs brought all the three at par to some extent. The chartered accountants, the cost accountants, and the company secretaries put together. Earlier than that, I have been on board of various companies from, our subsidiary company secretary from probably over 25 years or more than that now. The company secretaries were not taken very seriously. In fact, even the minutes of the meeting which were drafted used to be changed by the directors of the company or general managers of the company. But now that you are a KMP, I think you have much bigger might in the book. Okay. Now let me stop about ICSI and talk about what was expected of me. Now, as a independent director, I always feel that the first role of an independent director is actually to make sure the company runs ethically for sure, but also profitably. In my opinion, that is very important. And whatever expertise people like me or Revati or Shakran has gained over many years running companies, we have to translate that and pass it on to the management of the company and help them for the company to grow so that there can be more employment. The company's profitability is continuously increasing so that those who have invested in the company can get better returns from their investment. These are two critical things which are there. But at the same time, also ensure that nothing wrong is being done to achieve these two objectives, especially of making more profits. People quite often ask me, why are you being an independent director? Isn't it too dangerous, really, kind of thing? I said, yes, it is a dangerous. There are a lot of liabilities which can happen. But I told him, tell me one profession where there is no risk. Is there anything in life where there is no risk? So I said, yes, it is like that. You will learn to handle that risk, how to mitigate that risk. And if something happens, do some scenario planning on how to get out of the problem. So being an independent director is very exciting. I would say the remuneration is also very good. So I think those who are aspiring to become an independent director, please do so. It's a very entertaining, it's very interesting kind of profession to be in. Not a profession, it's kind of an engagement to be in. And this institute, the ICSI, has so much of training programs which can help each one of us independent directors to be very good independent. Thank you.
Thank you. At the outset, perhaps I would say, many people are talking about the responsibilities and she cited a recent example of whatever responsibility that is being imposed upon an independent director. Here, so whatever is the responsibility that is being cast upon an independent director on an extraneous situation. But you look at it, at least in my personal case, when you are forming part of a board, the responsibilities of the independent directors are being looked at very closely by other directors. Promoted directors, in fact, they look to you for guidance. They look to you for whether anything is going wrong, as Balakrishnan was saying, Arun was saying, whether the profitability is all right, whether anything can be done. They look at it. In my case, what happened was, unfortunately, I had specialization in accounting, finance, and then corporate laws and other related areas. With the result, as an independent director, the expectations on you, from you, is more on compliance matters in a very big way. Whether accounting standards are complied with, or secretarial standards are complied with, or cost accounting records are properly done, whether GST records are kept, whether company is in good line. The other directors also expect you to help them to see that the company is doing well, there are no violations. So the compliance is an important area where an independent director is allowed to go through as to what is happening and how it is being looked at and done. Other areas today, more and more responsibilities that are coming up is in terms of related party transactions. In fact, I saw one recent public issue from a very large group which came on an infrastructure public issue IPO. On the first page itself, they have disclosed so many number of related party transactions, and they said that we have done it arm's length. And the public, in fact, I was saying this company, this group, I don't want to name the group, and this group are bold enough to disclose, they are transparent enough to disclose, and the public issue went through a grand success. Ultimately, whether the related party transactions, how we are doing, etc., is may not be a public knowledge. At least now it has come to public knowledge. Even large companies, they do on a related party transaction, but it is to be done in a proper perspective. Same thing is, if you look at the corporate CSR guidelines today, as the earlier technical session, you have got so much of exposure, and the CSR guidelines itself is giving you a framework. But in terms of the independent director, you have an opportunity to look at it, whether the company is choosing the product well, whether the company is implementing the product well. So there are so many areas where an independent director contributes to the functioning of the management, whether it is a profitability improvement or whether it is a value reduction, value analysis, any areas you find, they expect you to give inputs. After all, their day-to-day operations are going ahead, and the day-to-day operations are being overseen by a board, and the board consists of diverse personalities. Some are experts on some field, some are experts on some other field. So it is a broad-based board. When the board is broad-based, it is very meaningful in terms of running the board matters. And there the company secretary does a remarkable role. He is a facilitator and he coordinates. He brings all the information. He is one person who is present in the board meeting. The finance man is not in that. The only person who is present other than the director is a company secretary. So all of you should be very proud to say that you form part of the board happenings from day one. So as a company secretary, you have a great role to play. And I think we should be proud that, in fact, I have been sitting in the boardroom for the last 35 years as a company secretary, finance manager and company secretary, then as a vice president, then as a chief executive, and then as a manager of the Companies Act. The manager of the Companies Act is a confusing concept. So the manager of the Companies Act, all these, then director of the company, independent directors, or independent director is a new invention of 2013, thereafter, or maybe class 49 came earlier. So these are the stages which come. You have looked at how the directors are behaving. But I have had the privilege of seeing the board members who have got a tremendous exposure, who have held very high positions, like chairman of State Bank, and sitting on me, next to me, and then raising some issues. You find your rich experience comes when you sit on the board. As a company secretary, you have all the experience to become an independent director. If you properly do your job, you are the best candidate to be selected for an independent director's position. Please do that. With that, I think we will open the floor.
Thank you. Am I audible? Yeah. Thank you, all three of you. I think you have brought different aspects of governance. We started with what some guardrails independent directors are expected to bring in functioning to the company. And very interestingly, Arun talked about independent directors as business facilitators. We very rarely look at independent directors as that. It's an interesting perspective, sir, that you have brought up. And Shankaran, sir, coming from our own fraternity, I think you said, what is the expectation from the promoter fraternity on independent directors to guide on compliance and other issues? Thank you very much. So what I will do is 1 or 2 questions I'm going to pose to all 3 of them to get their perspectives on common questions, 1 or 2 which will be specific to them. And after that, we can throw the floor open for any interaction. I would like to begin with the board composition. You already spoke about related party transaction. That's a hot topic. I'm going to come to that. But before that, all of you as company secretaries here, you know, both Companies Act and LODR mandates a certain mix of directors on the boards, whether executive directors, non-executive directors, independent directors, women director. This is prescribed under the law. Now, my question to the panelists is, are companies ensuring this in the true letter and spirit? Is it only for compliance? What is your experience in how does this right kind of board composition, do you think it enhances the board effectiveness? What has been your personal experience on the several boards that you are there?
So I think there has been an evolution of how board composition is being looked at. I think when in the early days, it was to find people who were possibly well known in certain fields and just bring them on. And I don't think people really looked at board position, independent board positions as people who have particular skill in a particular area, but eminent people or people who have a good knowledge and a good body of experience. Over time, I find the maturity of companies to say, you know, I think independent directors, we would like an outside-in perspective. Some companies which have rapid growth and rapid hiring, etc., they want to have an HR and going global across the world. Then they want to have specialists who have a lot of knowledge of HR and organization growth, etc. There are some companies which are very heavily into transactions, very highly transaction driven. So they may find people who are, they may want to fill certain board positions very specifically with people who have very transaction heavy experience, let's say NBFC or some of the others, which is extremely transaction heavy and very regulatory driven. The third could be, very highly technical kind of subjects where aviation and defense and companies that are having automotive. So you need to have a very futuristic perspective on where this business is going and what are the technology trends into the future. And therefore, increasingly we find this is not board composition has changed from lawyers and chartered accountants to a very different composition of business leaders who can actually crystal gaze. So I have personally seen the evolution over the last 15 years, a very significant difference in the way people are trying to hire independent directors.
You see, one, as far as board composition is concerned, there's another way of looking at the composition. That is in the form of board dynamics. What happens with the board? Okay. Now, you have, as you all know, there'll be executive directors, or what I normally refer to as the functional directors, who are actually your director HR or director finance or director XYZ, who are within the company. Okay. And then you have the nominee directors, nominees of various financial institutions from whom you have taken a loan, etc. Their job is to find out, whether the money borrowed is been actually utilized for the purpose it has been borrowed and things like that. And then we have some other non-executive directors who are some specialists in certain areas, kind of thing. And then we have the independent directors. Okay. Now, as far as the functional directors are concerned, as long as the MD is seated there, none of them really open their mouth unless they're asked to open their mouth. It's the fact of that, it's how the system works. Most often, some of them are very knowledgeable people. We realize that in the board, when they have to make a presentation for a large investment or something, we'll find the depth of their knowledge coming up. Okay? But it is confined to that. The MD always keeps an eye on what happens as far as the functional directors are concerned. Nominee directors, very few of them have actually spoken up during board meetings. My personal experience. Others could have a different kind of experience. It is not only the independent director, those who have actually read the agenda papers, 200, 300 pages of them in great detail, and then kind of challenge the presentation being made by the functional director and saying that if you're investing public money, I'm looking at listed companies, when you look at listed companies, it's public money really. What is the depth of investigation you have done before making to make that particular investment? Functional directors on these to make sure that public money is well invested. That is the role which I normally play. Okay? Sometimes we say, okay, let's have a separate committee before any project comes onto the board to separately discuss in greater detail the project report per se, the kind of the demand projection which is going to happen, the cash flow that will come out, or the integrity of the proposal. And this is where I think some more independent directors can play a key role. Now, when independent directors are selected to be independent directors in a particular company, I don't think anybody is testing their knowledge of either BRSR or the rules and regulations. Some of them may be aware of some parts of the Companies Act. Some of the independent directors, some of the potential independent directors may know the SEBI LODR to some extent. Okay, but mostly, people like Mr. Shankar may be an exception because he is very knowledgeable in all these areas. But most of us, most of the independent directors who come onto the board come with some kind of broad understanding about how a company ought to be run, how it is run, what are the pitfalls in making sure that the company runs profitably, ethically, etc. Okay, so independent directors play this multi-purpose role, and as I said, no person normally gets selected to be on the board as an independent director based on his knowledge of secretarial issues and things like that. And actually, all this kind of monitoring of what happens in the board is, for example, for anything to do with the accounts and finance, we normally rely on internal audit and the stat auditor to get knowledge. I think internal auditor is the best friend of the independent director. Okay, then comes the stat auditor. I mean, you get further insight onto it. How the board is operating, etc. I think the secretarial audit is a great eye-opener for us because that helps quite a lot in understanding whether we are on the right path. And this is where, it is helpful for the company secretary as well because third-party secretarial audit just digs into all kinds of things and comes up with it. So the dynamics of this board are actually very interesting. And the second part of it is that whether you have an executive chairman or a non-executive chairman. That also decides how the company is run. If you have a chairman come managing director, quite often the functioning of the board gets tilted a little because here is the chairman who can decide on everything. And he's also the managing director. So all his pet projects will be pushed through. But the functional directors will not open their mouth usually. So the board composition has got a lot of complexities in it, as has been explained by earlier speaker as well. So I think with most of the time, I think these issues will come out when you talk about the related party transactions and other things. Let me stop here at this point of time.
I mean, just to follow on two questions, you were talking about these technical knowledge and domain knowledge about the laws. I know independent directors, not all of them have, But how relevant is it today? You have to pass certain exam and you have to enroll in the ID data bank. Do you think that is relevant? Because we see so many people passing it. It's not that just because you pass a exam that you can become an independent director. There's so many other attributes required. What is your view on that?
You should have some basic knowledge about the Companies Act and SEBI rules and LODR. Okay. And there are enough institutions like the place I was associated with, there is the Institute of Directors. We train people on that, and I was part of the faculty there as well. So that gives a basic idea. It's like learning to drive. I mean, you can drive a normal car with a gear kind of thing, and later you transfer, go into a car without an automatic gear kind of thing. It is the same business really, but you will have a better understanding of the car, that kind of thing. And knowledge of law is statutes, in my opinion, very, very important. You cannot get away from it. But as an independent director, you cannot be knowing all the rules and regulations in the world. So that is why whenever there is a doubt, the Companies Act as well as the LODM provides that you can ask for an independent advice from a third party at the expense of the company.
The other point I wanted to ask was you brought in this element of the functional directors not being comfortable speaking and the role the independent directors play. Do you think this culture of communication, openness, and encouraging all the directors' participation, do you think the chairman has a role to play? There is a culture which is coming in from the top, or the dynamics are different in each board?
See, if he's a non-executive chairman, who's not regularly on the day-to-day operations of the company, he can do that. Okay. Otherwise, what happens? I was the chairman and managing director of HPCL at that time. Okay. So whatever issues are there, we have a secondary level of board. We call it a committee of functional directors. Everything is thrashed out there. All the directors are free to speak. There is no third party available there. No. The company secretary normally sits on the board because he has to take minutes on that. Okay. So all the details are thrashed out in what is called the committee of functional directors. And then the general understanding is that the chairman commanding CMT, as I can call them, and the other directors come to a consensus on what will be presented to the board. Okay. It's this understanding which can sometimes cause a problem wherein, because nobody will speak up in the board. No, other functional directors don't speak up on the board. There's a positive as well as negative issue to this. Negative issue, I know. Positive is that you don't want, the marketing director and the finance director having a fight on the board. All the independent directors will start laughing at the board.
Thank you. Sir, your perspective on this, on the board effectiveness, board composition, and how is it related to board effectiveness?
I think composition of the board, if you look at it broadly, what Arun said is perfectly right. When you have a whole-time director and the whole-time director is a functional director, then he will be a silent spectator on whatever is happening. If there is a finance director will make the presentation and then that. But in terms of composition of the board, if you look at it right now, especially a company where even large company, they would always like to say the majority of the directors are likely to be representing the large stakeholders. If there are 7 directors, they ensure that there are 4 directors who are all representing either the promoters group or non-executive directors who are likely to vote for them on any board position. This is the fact of life. The other 3 directors are by and large, they are independent directors. Or constitution of independent directors plus some function, some expert domain knowledge director who is on the board. If there is 9 directors, we will find definitely they would like to ensure that whatever promoters want, in case there is a discussion at the board meeting, and if the item has to be passed, they would like to ensure that the item is passed. For which, after all, independent director can make an observation, he can make his viewpoint, he'll say, I don't agree. That needs to be visited. But the resolution has to be put through because it is a majority vote. So you, as an independent director, you have expressed your view very forcefully. It has found a place in the minute. With that, our term is over. But as far as item is concerned, that item is passing. So the constitution of the board, if you look at Reliance, if you look at it, they will find there are majority of the directors will find they would be aligned to the promoters do. I'm talking about the craftsmen. Some may not be MNC related companies and other companies. But by and large, the Indian experience is that is what's happening. The non-executive directors, by and large, forms four. They are all people who are likely to side with the management if that is the case. So the independent directors become a scapegoat. And because of the promoters, expertise, promoters, blueprint plan, the independent director will say why we are going for unrelated area of expansion. He will ask for a justification. He will go through the numbers. He will say how our competitors are performing in this unrelated area. All those questions he will go on asking. So, but nevertheless, the constitution of the board today's situation is that is the reality. But fortunately, company that has said that if the woman director, it can put in a lot of conditions. So today, even if you look at the women director, what has happened in the Indian environment today, most of the women directors in large companies or big companies, they are all women belong to the family or promoters only. Very few professionals like Revati is on the board. How many professional directors are getting today? If you look at even the academic programs today, when we were studying company secretaries or cost accounting, most of the people were men. Today it is not so. If you go to the company secretaries institute today, the student population, the members population, women constitute a sizable majority. Cost accountant, women constitute a sizable majority. So in 5 years down the line, we find a lot of women directors with domain knowledge also will come up. With engineers, IITs, IIM, Bangalore, all of you. So all these institutions have been contributing in giving members to the board. So I think over 5 to 10 years time, we will have a better composition of the board. With laws keep changing, there will be a necessity for the promoters to change their concept to see that the constitution is well done.
I think the number is definitely increasing and she will be witness to that because you're on the board for several years and women what started in 2014 as mandated, it has moved away from, women from friends and family circle and it has moved on. You are actually bringing the competence and I think we are not there just because of the gender.
I think what has happened is in some of the companies, we have at least 3 women directors on the board.
It's not.
And they are all very, very competent people. So I think we are seeing that, and they are non-promoters. So I think we are seeing that change, but a lot more needs to happen. I don't say that is happening to every company. And they are not doing this because they are looking for women directors. They are looking for competent people, and they have found some women who are also competent. So I think these things are changing, but a lot more needs to change.
No, I definitely see that the pool is increasing and there are a lot of role models now, for people to look up to and say how they need to groom themselves. So, Revati, I want to straight jump into one specific topic, which I enjoyed listening to Revati when we had invited her for the Bangalore chapter Women's Day and almost 2 hours she had poured on this very topic of independent directors. And I think in one of your talks, you said how you really drove the EV narrative in one of the boards that you were. So can you elaborate on the same when we are talking about sustainability, climate change and all that? This is, as an independent director, how are you able to bring in a new narrative to the board and make a business case out of it? I would like our audience to listen to that because many of them haven't heard it.
Okay, at the cost of repetition, maybe some of them.
Because we have members from the 4 southern states and maybe other states also. That day it was just a few people from Bangalore. It's not a repetition.
Okay, so I will generalize it a little bit and then talk specifically about this. Quite often you are in businesses which are very transformative. Let's say, for example, we are talking of oil and gas. We are talking of automotive. We are talking of chip design. So there are many transformative businesses which are possibly at a cusp of certain things that are going to happen, and therefore it also causes an existential threat for the company. For example, for Shell, globally, Shell shareholders took a big exception. They raised a big issue on how unsustainable their entire business model was, because they were working on oil and gas, which is not sustainable. So the shareholders asked a question: what is the concrete plan that you have to make your company sustainable? And therefore, Shell as a company brought in so many new initiatives, which we could also see it translated when I'm on the board of Shell MRPL, to see how we can progress on sustainability initiatives. So that's one. But as an independent director, let me talk a little bit. So there are challenges in multiple industries. It is up to us to spot that there are going to be technology shifts in a manner in which that could make a very significant difference to the way companies are run 10 years hence, 15 years hence. And you may have to start making the preparations now, because if it's going to be a existential threat for 15 years from now, you have to start making the investments today, and it will have no return for 10 years because there may not be a market. Similarly, bringing into perspective the EV business, I was invited to be on the board of a company that was going public 1.5 years from then, which was very core into automotive, doing core engine parts for the automotive, for leading giants across the world. And one of the first questions I asked even before I joined was, what is this engine part? You're doing fantastically well, you're growing significantly, you have world leaders whom you're servicing, but this business itself may be at risk, because there is a big transition from fossil fuel to EV vehicles. At that time, there was a healthy skepticism from the promoter side and the other side, saying, we are dealing with each one of these entities, name Toyota or Fiat or any others, all these companies, large companies. And they all have massive investments, and we are committed to them for so many years. Long-term commitments are there, and therefore we don't see any risk. But I could see something else because of the time that the investments that I have personally in startups and the work that I do with startups in mentoring and all that. I could see that more and more external money, VC money, was getting spent on things which today didn't have a market at all. So it was into electric vehicle technology, battery technology, motor technology, etc., etc. So I would keep asking this question, and jocularly I was called the EV lady, at the board. Not in a negative way, but they felt I was sort of overreacting to a situation which was possibly not required. To the extent that I said, maybe you're not taking it seriously. It's not necessary that all these OEMs are going to tell you exactly their plans. But I would want you to organize an external speaker, a market research firm, and to talk to us about the trends in EV and how this is going to move forward. And actually, that was an eye-opener, and slowly the mentality changed, and we said, put a dipstick investment. You have to start making the investment. Today, in 5 years' time, the transition, when we went IPO, actually, the majority of the questions from the investors were precisely on this, that so many years you have been in the heart of the EV industry, and you're the heart of the engine technology, which itself may be an existential threat for you tomorrow. Something which gave you great stickiness could be the cause of and then we created, over a period of time, then we were already ready because of this constant nagging, I would say, that we want an EV strategy. we now have a strategy which is EV agnostic, and we look at the board level, every time we look at parts which are EV dependent, non-EV dependent, non-IC dependent. So we have multiple categories in which we analyze the sales. And we have come to a stage that our dependence on core engine parts has come down very, very significantly. So that is a transition which has stood us in good stead, because suddenly in the last 3 years, you can see the plethora of, Tata is sending out, others are putting out so many hybrid models. So our role is also to crystal gaze beyond what is there today, what is evident today, what could be tomorrow. Sorry, long answer.
No, fantastic.
Can
It's
I
very,
add to what she
please.
See, what you said, Revati, reminds me of that book which I love the most. It's called The Innovator's Dilemma by Christensen. Anybody has read this?
Yes.
Anybody has read this book? The Innovator's Dilemma? Briefly,
Please.
Briefly, I can tell you, in most large companies, capital allocation is where the direction of the company goes. And that's what she changed actually in the company she mentioned. Okay. So put in money, things will happen. Now, in a large company who are not top leaders of a particular technology, what they do is that they're so used to supporting that particular technology, because they're all familiar with it and they had a lot of returns on investment on that. So when somebody comes up with a new idea, they do not look at it. So no money gets allocated there. But over a period of time, somebody catches on to that idea, builds upon it, and slowly they become larger and larger, and the technology also improves from time, as again what she said, and suddenly finds that there's another new industry has come up and you are nowhere in that. And I would recommend each one of you to read this book called The Innovator's Dilemma. Sorry,
No, thank you.
Same is the case.
I think
The same is the case. Say, for example, semiconductors industry. Today, it's a big talk. 20 years back, the government of India, they constituted semiconductors company of India, Chandigarh. One of my relatives was the chairman, he became on that. And that time, nothing could be done. It was there for 3 years, 4 years. And the idea was, we had excellent, we had money, we had the technical people to support that. But at the same time, the government did not believe that semiconductor industry will grow in such a big way. They did not support with enough funds. But today, and the company died down, public said PSI, and it went down. But today, everybody talks up, everybody says, I want to get into the semiconductors industry, whether they know or not. So that is what even the MNCs, as you said, they have done.
I think, Revati, it is really fascinating how you could, you use the word nagging, but as a fellow woman on this stage, I would say this is our strength. Sometimes as a woman, we are persistent and we want to pursue something, we have perseverance. I think that is the strength of character which independent director, I think, should bring. It's just not the knowledge part of it, but if you are able to bring a diversity, diversification in the business, that is all contributing the long-term sustainability. Thank you so much for sharing your insight on that. I would like to Shankaran sir, it's also related somewhere to the business continuity and risk part of it. You have been chairing the risk management committee in some of the boards. Now, pandemic, we all saw it was a black swan event, right? Nobody expected that. So when you look at something like a pandemic, I'm just taking that as an example. I want you to share your experience on how committees look at these kind of events. It could be that or something else for ensuring that there is a business continuity risk. What kind of discussions happen, and independent directors, how do you contribute?
By and large, the risk management committee today, we look at it in terms of macro factors and then minor, exclusive the company factor. The macro factors, all of us know, it is external environment, external economic factors, political factors, technological factors, and forex, various influences are there. But related to that, we focus it on the company specific, industry specific, and company specific. As far as the industry specific is concerned, to some extent, that is more important to be seen for any, whether it is electronic industry or whether it is pharma industries or textile industry. They're all governed by whatever the industry is going through, the risk faced by the industry will also affect you. So you can't say that it is affecting only that company in the industry, it will not affect my company. You can't take an attitude of that type. So when you come back to the company specific, you have by and large, you have a business and basically business wise, whether there is a continuity, as we say continuity, whether there is going to be a technological obsolescence because of that, continuity is going to be affected. Because of the competition, the continuity is going to be affected. And our cost effectiveness is not as good as other. So to that extent, where we have lacked on that. So business risk is business operational risk is one of the major risks which we go through. As far as the risk pertaining to this business operation, what are the risks perceived by the management? For identification of risk, then you have a risk mitigation measure. You can, after all, no company can say, I don't have risk. Every company has risk in every part of the operations, what they do. So identify the risks. And after identifying the risk, you have to also have a risk mitigation measure. You have to have a plan A, plan B. You need to do what exactly that could happen on the risk mitigation. When you go to after identifying the business operation, you really today what we are normally liquidity risk. Today funds are available or not available. The company's cash flow is very, very critical. The liquidity risk is very important for the company. Supposing the company is not able to make the payment on time, the entire foundation what the company is lying is all gone. So the liquidity risk is very important. So the risk management has to see. They look at the cash flow, net operations, how the money is coming, whether we are living from hand to mouth, whether we are living out of borrowed fund, and whether we are able to service the borrowed fund. So liquidity risk is very, very important in any financial, any organization. Then you have a credit risk. This is the third part which we normally look at it. So we have been identifying any vendor just like that we don't take. We look at the rating of the vendor before identify a supplier. We look at the supplier how he. Similarly, when we sell also, the vendor evaluation is very, very important. The customer evaluation before we sell is very important. We do that, and to that extent, we say that the customer outstanding is protected to some extent because you know the customer and his experience has been good. So customer risk is pertaining to credit risk is very, very important, which we normally do. Then you have the market risk, which is very important. So business-wise, you are in a particular industry. The market, you have domestic market and also export market. For example, export market is very dynamic market. It is invested with foreign exchange fluctuation. It is infected with repayment problems, etc. For example, today, exports to Russia has opened up, which was not previously. People are not looking at Russia as a destination for the product. Today, Russia is opening up and they would like to encourage imports from India. So, export to Russia has got their own people always felt there are some problems in getting of money from them, etc. So today, the risk pertaining to country-wise risk is one has to evaluate it. And before we jump on an export order, we normally would like to ensure the risk management company would like to ask questions as to what exactly is required and whether the ECGs cover, fortunately, ECGs cover whether we can take selectively for certain customer, whether we should do it for a country as a whole. So these are the liquidity risks right with the market risk. Domestic market, of course, all of us know that vendor has to be chosen properly and then how exactly the product, so long the quality is, you are able to produce at the right time and the right quality and the right price, if you are able to maintain that, I'm sure your customer will, you will create the profitability.
I would expect that at the committee level, it's more of looking at these mechanisms and then macro level and redefining the policies.
You got the risk management committee today. You look at the most of the risk management committee, you find that the number of members, if you look at it, majority of members are from the operations, from the company. If there are 9 members, we find that at least say 5 or 6 we draw from the company. And only balance 3 independent directors and then managing director and maybe the chairman, he is there. But otherwise, the risk, we have to educate them because the members who participate in the risk committee management meetings, etc., you should know these are the risks which the company is likely to face in case we accept an order or in case we accept a product and we buy the product. So the risk management to that extent is company specific. And the company has to analyze each segment of that. Human resources risk is very important. We find that all of us are exposed to this COVID. People who are working from home, 3 years they have enjoyed life. As we say, enjoyed life, maybe as a management language, but really employees have also worked very sincerely from home. Today, when we ask them to come back to the office, they are not wanting to come. They say that, especially not the workers, but other white collar people will say, I am very happy. I will be more productive when I work at home. So I would not like to come. I will come maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week. I know at least one gentleman said, okay, I will work from 3 days, he reduced by 70 to 50%. So management is finding it extremely difficult to get back all the people back to work. And it is a matter of time, which I think things will get stabilized. But the human resources trade, not only leaving the people at the highest level and getting a replacement for the guy, is a quite a difficult task. But we need to have a standby plan. So we need to have a number 2, number 3, properly positioned. So we like to tell the management. So whether the number 1 goes, right, he will
So
not.
I think here there's a lot that maybe the NRC also will have to work together for these
Yeah.
kind of people risks which are there.
People risk is very, very important. That's the NRC does that activity. People risk. And other last
Sir,
one
I
is-
would like to now move on
Yeah.
to, yeah.
other one, profitability risk also is there. So
Pardon?
profitability risk,
Yes.
how to cushion is that. So the risk management committee identifies all the risk attended to the company and takes into account. Thank you.
Yes, I think I would 6 o'clock. So I would like to ask Arun sir, this is relating to related party transactions. I know all 3 of you are on boards and this is a hot topic. Now, we also have one of the provisions under the LODR saying only independent directors are supposed to approve the related party transactions. How do you think ID should take, what process is followed? Maybe some experience that you want to share, of course, maintaining the confidentiality, if you would like to throw light and some insights on how do independent directors take decisions on related party transactions within the framework of law.
To start with, I have to confess it's a very difficult task.
Yes.
There's a related party transaction. There are many types of related party transactions. The recent amendment which came, if you have an ESOP, a company gives an ESOP, when do you sell it? Because sensitive information is always with you. Somebody who's got ESOP. So yeah, I think SEBI has come out with now a regulation on how to sell ESOPs over a period of time. That I think is a very timely intervention. No, you're not talking about independent directors. I'm talking about officers within the organization. So that is one related party which has been sorted out. The second one is that the other issue which comes to my mind is that what was that I was about to say? Yeah. You see, when you're dealing with MNCs, there is a MNC which is the parent company, and there is a subordinate company within India. Okay, this again becomes a problem because as far as related party transaction is concerned, there are 2 pillars really. One is the arm's length, and the second is the normal course of business. Now, if it is a subsidiary of an MNC, it is a related party issue which I am facing currently now. Is that okay? How do you take care of this issue? Because the parent company sells a product, and some innovation is getting done within the country, and then it is sold to the customer. Okay? They say this is the normal course of business, but the price at which the Indian company is getting from the parent becomes a question mark, because we have to find out if the parent company is a large company which has got, let's say, operating in 100 different companies, how to establish at what price they are selling it in all 100 different companies. That is one big issue which is there. The other issue on this is that even after the audit committee, which is responsible for identifying what the nature of the related party, as independent directors, we cannot really find out all the aspects of it. Therefore, where I am involved, what I do is I said, look, please have a third party to come and certify that the related party transactions are above. Okay? So that helps to a great extent. But there again, after the audit committee has approved it and the board has also approved it, it has to go to the shareholders for approval. Now, there, as far as the related party is concerned, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it is only the majority of the minority shareholders will have to approve it. And this is where the problem is coming. That is the one which I wanted to start with, but I don't know how to put it really. So the issue here is that while I do agree that the majority of the minority shareholders are a very potent force. So I was looking at what is the definition of a minority shareholder really. When you look at the definition of a minority shareholder, it says that anybody who has got, who cannot make a change in decision of the board, or who cannot push a decision of the board, which essentially means that anybody who has got a shareholding of less than 50% is a minority shareholder. That becomes again a very difficult proposition and needs to be, in my opinion, all this wise minds who are sitting here need to look into this particular issue as well. There are many issues wherein minority shareholders, let's say, for example, the promoters are 75%, okay, minorities 25%. Now, these minority shareholders these days are gagging up together. Many instances, because they are not particularly bothered about the welfare of the company in this particular case, but also their own interests in this because they have got other vested interests in this. I don't want to name the company because then it becomes too obvious. So then the independent directors who have approved the related party transactions in the audit committee comes to a very difficult position. Because in the board, in the annual AGM, the minority shareholders vote against it. And then they complain to SEBI, and SEBI keeps on inquiring on these kind of things. They come on what way.
All of the advisory firms which are quite.
Yeah, this is even without the proxy advisors, these people are gagging up together. Proxy advisors, yeah. We are not particularly bothered about the proxy advisors because the company is run well. Then there is no worry about what proxy advisors. This is in addition to the half a dozen, large non-promoter groups ganging up together to change the policy of the company. This is a challenge. I don't know how we'll solve it.
Despite all these challenges, it's interesting to see that you feel it's still worth playing the role of independent director, and you're encouraging everybody out here. So on that question, I just want to ask perhaps Revati on large number of professionals sitting here and with a good number of years of experience, all of you have appreciated the role of company secretaries. Now, I think 2024, there's going to be a good churn of independent directors. So what is your advice or what are the tips that you want to share on this fraternity if we want to groom ourselves or equip? How do we equip ourselves to become independent directors? Is there a good opportunity for us here?
Of course, there is a great opportunity because I think good, experienced independent directors are a need of the hour. And there are three things. Other than merely knowing the law and the compliance, I think the expectation of the independent director is to be, as Arun said, a business facilitator as well. Somebody who can crystal gaze, who can look at businesses with a long-term perspective. So apart from knowing the act and what needs to be done, etc., I would encourage company secretaries to get a more business perspective, understand the business, try to understand businesses deeper, read much more on those topics so that you become also a kind of a business partner to this whole thing. That will make people much more, it'll make that candidature much more superior. And so that's one. I just want to go back on one or two things that was said earlier, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Quick comment on risk. I want to talk about a specific case on strategic risks that a company faces. For example, on the board of a pharma company, which is, as per its strategy, wants to bring innovative products into the country, which means when it is globally launched, at the same time, it is launched in India. Now, these are all products which have been there in the country for years together. Research work that has gone for years together. 15 years it takes before a pharma pipeline can be put to the market. So 15 years of research has gone. There are companies we found repeatedly that within 6 months of our launching the product, the innovative product into the country with all the patent protections, everything, somebody would create a similar product in the local market who have copied the molecule. It may not be as efficacious, but they would have copied the molecule. Now, when you go to the government actually turns a blind eye because they have this Make in India policy. While they cannot openly say that we don't respect the patent, they'll just turn a blind eye and then keep sending some notices to you. So I think these are all some real challenges, and we ask I would challenge the management to say, why are you being reactive? Why do you discover that these people have now put this into the market and then you're going and filing cases against them? They could not have put it into the market unless they had a production facility and they were preparing themselves. Why can't you make an inventory of all the kinds of companies who are manufacturing and what kind of facilities they are putting up? Keep your radar up so that you preventively you take a lot of actions so that you protect your patent, because government is not going to openly come and protect. They'll say, oh, Indian company is doing it, let them do it. And anyway, cheaper medication is being given. Nobody is looking at the efficacy and whether it has been tested to the degree that it needs to be tested before it's getting put into the market. So I think these are some very serious issues which need the attention of the board and the risk management committee to look at and be more proactive in managing some of these existential risks.
Thank you for bringing that specific perspective. So you want to add to that?
See, one of the issues which comes up about getting your IP getting copied is because, when you apply for a copyright, okay, there are many types of copyright, and if you want to get a IP registered, you have to detail the process.
And you mean the patent?
The patent,
Yeah.
yeah. So once you give that much of detail out, anybody can use it. And it's very to replicate. That is the problem with most companies are facing there. After that, it's a very, very difficult, tenuous legal process you have to go through to correct it. I don't know how large companies are doing it, but there are multiple legal cases going on across the world on this. And I think there is no solution inside the failures.
Thank you very much. I think we have covered a wide spectrum of aspects of the business and of governance from their individual experience. I think if there are about 5 to 10 minutes, I would like to throw the floor open for questions. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Yeah, I see Anand has raised his hand.
Hello.